Welcome back to another episode of The Family Album. I'm your host, AJ Tenari.
And I'm Matt Glass.
Last week on Family Meeting, we discussed the worst tracks we've reviewed on the podcast so far, but we might have some more to add to that list after this episode.
It was a bit of a precursor because we are finally at the winners of the Bad Album Bowl.
Yes, thank you all for voting and for choosing which form our destroyers take, like in Ghostbusters.
Yeah, one of them is Vigo the Carpathian, and the other one is fucking
Gozer.
Zool or whatever the hell. I think Vigo's a separate thing from Gozer entirely, if I remember the lore correct. Because like Gozer is like the guy.
Yeah.
Where Zool was like
the henchman, the dog,
reincarnated. He was like the human, like bodied manifest of.
Oh, this is like actual lore?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
So I love Ghostbusters.
Nice.
The thing about Ghostbusters that's so weird, and then we'll get to the albums, is that the lore is actually kind of badass. Nice. I'm not gonna lie.
Word.
But the thing is, like, the comedy kind of takes away from that. Not takes away, but sort of like makes it more of like a background type deal. Also, the fact that Dan Aykroyd is in it is
true.
You know. But anyway.
Yes. The Bad Album Bowl winners, for those who don't know, the albums we're talking about this week are Nostalgia Critic's The Wall and Songs of Innocence by U2.
Two very different albums, I would say, sonically. I mean, one of them is better than the other one.
Yes.
But that's not exactly
a high praise.
It's a low bar to clear.
Very much.
I think is really the way to put it.
Yes. Clash of the Titans, honestly.
Yeah, really, really. It's very interesting, though, how one of these albums, we all know which one, made it to the very end, because everybody felt so compelled to push it forward, which is something that I think will be a very interesting point of discussion, which is why I think we should start with that album.
I agree, because I have a lot to say about the other one.
The other one is the one that everybody wants to know about.
Yeah.
You don't look at that album cover and think, that's a good album. You know what I mean?
That cover tells us a story, and not a good one.
No, it does not. But without any further ado, shall I get into a little bit of history for Songs of Innocence?
Go for it, Matt.
Songs of Innocence by U2 was released on September 9th of 2014 through Island and Interscope, and is the 30.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Damn, it's like Bob Dylan.
It is the 13th studio album under the name U2. It was produced by Danger Mouse, Paul Epworth, Ryan Tedder, Declan Gaffney, and Flood, which Flood is the only one that actually makes the most sense because he produced albums with similar like
vibes,
genres, like similar wheelhouse as U2 at the time.
Danger Mouse was a surprise to see, not gonna lie.
A little bit.
Yeah.
You don't really expect the part of Gnarls Barkley to be on this album.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest fucking thing ever. But anyway, members of the band at this time included Bono on lead vocals, The Edge on guitar and backing vocals, Adam Clayton on bass, Larry Mullen Jr. on drums and percussion. Described by Bono as U2's most personal album, this record is remembered in more infamy than fame for its unorthodox exclusive releases on iTunes, iTunes Radio, and Beats Music. As Apple attempted to boost the relevancy in this band after up to 5 years of inactivity, the band and Apple CEO Tim Cook would soon learn that the largest album release of all time is not at all synonymous to the best, or even very good.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to put that.
I try. I'm trying to be better with my history.
I like
and
it.
like writing it down, actually.
It was very captivating, Matt.
I try. I really, really try.
Very Matt-tivating, if
Matt-tivating, yeah. That was some Matt-stery. You want to...
Yeah, what's some Matt-stery?
I listened to this on my couch, sipping on some Baja Blast.
Nice.
And I thought, maybe it's just because of the unorthodox nature that it was released that it's not very good. And I got to be honest with you, while I think that is a huge part of it, the album really didn't do much for me at all.
I think that's fair. I think there's definitely some, I don't know, you want to say high points, some decent points.
Decent.
Yeah, but there are a few low points on here.
Yeah. Shall we just hop right in? Because I'm sure we have a lot to say about this one. I know we got a lot to say about the next one, but like we got a lot to say about this one too.
Let's just get into it. So this album opens up with the Miracle of Joey Ramone. I think this is one of the worst tracks on the album, if I'm being honest. At least one of the bad ones, in my opinion.
Honestly, this was not at all what I expected at the very beginning.
Yeah.
I also need to preface a couple things, family heads. I am an Android user, so I have never had any experience with this album until these last few weeks. And genuinely, I'm sorry for all of you guys that had to have this on your phones just permanently. That does not sound very fun whatsoever, if I gotta be honest. I like the 6/8 feel, though.
Yeah.
It's fine. I do like me a good 6/8, you know?
Can't go wrong.
But I don't know. I really don't know.
It doesn't really do much, like... And I think like the overall context of the song is kind of like weird too. I mean, it's cool like paying homage to like your idols, but like the way that he does it feels very glazy.
Because he's paying homage to the guy from the Ramones.
I would assume,
right?
Yeah.
That's what I read that somewhere.
Yeah, that's my guess. So that's like one of their big influences, or like maybe like what got him into music.
Yeah, I suppose. I don't really mind it, but I definitely don't think it's like reinventing the wheel either.
Yeah.
I kind of dig the heavy sound of the guitars a little bit. And that's one thing I will say. I think instrumentally, this album is not horrible.
Yeah.
I think the vocals and the lyrics are two things about this album that I really cannot get behind.
And at points, the production too.
Yes, the production kind of dips toward the middle, I feel like.
Yeah, everything like sounds kind of compressed or like really flat, and it's just not really interesting or just like not very engaging to listen to.
Some of which are also pretty uneven, I would argue.
Yeah, especially on the drums. The drums suffer a lot.
Yes, they do. It's kind of giving Coldplay.
Dude, literally, Bono sounds like Chris Martin. You cannot convince me otherwise.
Kinda. I'd say he sounds like Chris Martin, but like a little less...
without the accent. With a little less British.
A little less swallow.
Yeah. This album does swallow, though.
But like, I would say it's really, really hard to not make the Coldplay comparison.
Oh my God.
Considering, one, this is very much of 2014.
Yeah.
Like you can really, really hear... And
like all the influences they were like trying to pull from as well.
To try to stay relevant. Like they probably heard some of Coldplay's records and thought, oi, what an Irish band.
Me bloody Valentine.
Me bloody Valentine. Heart stars and horseshoes. No, but like it really does give a lot of Coldplay vibes.
Yeah.
I could definitely see an argument that this song is way too long as well. Though I will say there are some other contenders on this record that
it could earn that title.
Yeah. I think my last real criticism, though, is that this song feels way too busy.
Okay.
I don't know if that makes... I feel like there were just a lot of things that they were trying to add in to make it seem like, oh...
It's kind of like reel you in.
Yeah, to kind of try to reel you in, but also like... I feel like they were trying to seem really multifaceted almost with some of these tracks, but like nothing really earns the thought process of me being like... Yeah, they're really, really creative individuals. Like, no, it's
they're just
not,
kind of throwing stuff in there
and seeing what works.
Yeah, because you have like the harmonized vocals in there, the tom shuffle on the 6/8, the huge big explosions into the chorus that are like supposed to be like a big moment that ultimately just kind of fall flat.
Yeah,
it's not very good, but it sure does set the tone for this album.
It very much does. Anything else to say about this track?
Nothing really. It just sounds like generic rock at the time.
Yeah.
Really not doing anything to reinvent the wheel.
But it's weird because I think what takes me out of it, if I'm being honest, this is more of like a general album critique, is just Bono's vocals.
Yeah,
there are some moments where it sounds like it hurts for him to sing some of this shit.
Oh my God, yeah.
Like
he's like straining at some of these parts.
Which, fair enough. It is their 13th album and they've been around since the 80s.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine that all those years of touring is exactly the kindest on your voice. But at the same time, it's kind of like, this is your foray into relevancy again.
Maybe do something a little safer
and not download it on everybody's phones.
Yeah.
God, I'm just imagining like, okay, it's like think of a big artist of 2014 at the time, right?
Katy Perry.
Katy Perry. You're listening to I don't fucking know, like Firework or California Roar, whatever you want to say, and like. That album ends, assuming you listen to the full album, because I don't think I really have ever or want to listen to a full Katy Perry album, if I'm being completely honest. Especially now, yeah. Imagine like all that ending, and then this song just starts playing and you're just like, fuck, I forgot to put it on.
Dude, that was literally me in like high school, like forever. Cause like at first my parents, they told me that like, oh, like you too, like this band that we really like is like putting music on everyone's phone. Or like, that's so cool. Like real band to listen to new music.
Oh my God. Wow. I don't have to pay for it. Wow.
Literally, that's what it was. And I maybe added like 2 songs to a playlist. A couple of weeks later, took them out. Then when it was still on shuffle, they would come in. It was really frustrating having to skip it all the time. And that's when I switched to Spotify.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, holy shit, man. I can't imagine that.
It was just really fucking annoying. And I can see why a lot of people hate it for that reason.
It's not the worst song on the album, though. Family album guest, our friend, not just guest, Evan.
Yeah.
He gave us a little bit of a text dissertation about like his opinions and kind of overall thoughts on the album. Mm-hmm. He said that I believe what the exact thing he said was something along the lines of like hearing The Miracle of Joey Ramone on his parents' Sirius XM radio station play it over and over and over again definitely made him angry to the point where he might hate it as much as the next album. So
I think that's valid.
Yeah.
That's how often it's been around.
But I feel like I've been prattling on. There's just a lot of lore with this, surprisingly.
For both albums, unfortunately.
For both albums.
Yeah.
But strap in. We got a lot
ride.
more. 10 more, in fact.
Next up, we have Every Breaking Wave. I think this one's honestly fine for the most part.
Every breaking wave. Immediately, I was like, wow, this just sounds like The Police.
Yeah.
Like a little bit.
I think it's like a nice, like kind of slower pace from the first track. Has a nice like chugging bass line, but here's where you kind of notice the drum production sounds like shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like it just doesn't sound crisp. They're like super low in the mix and everything sounds flat and weightless whenever like a drum is hit.
Which is so funny because Danger Mouse is a drummer.
Yeah.
Like you would think, especially on like Gnarls Barkley, for example, like I feel like they're really, really tight with their instrumentals.
Yeah.
I think it's so funny how he looked at this and went, yeah, this is it right here. Yeah.
Yeah, really low in the mix.
I think this song is palatable, but all the more very predictable, which is kind of what I think of a majority of these tracks.
Yeah.
The catchy melody is probably the best part about this song, if I'm being real. But I am also kind of happy because this track, despite its runtime, went by pretty quick.
Yeah, it's not that bad of a listen.
No.
I think it's like a nice sentiment to like the lyric, every dog in the street knows we're in love with defeat. It's like, you know, talking about just like making problems for yourself. I like the drop on the chorus as well, and like the electric guitars go off, which is really nice. And then this is here where I noticed that his vocals sound like Chris Martin, like pretty like obviously. I was like, wow, that's wild.
They were trying really, really hard to like
like emulate that style.
Yeah, and be like, we're comparable to Coldplay too, you know.
Just from Ireland.
They really rely on the underlick in this song, I feel like.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's kind of where the appeal lies for, like, a casual listen.
It's not really doing anything too exciting, but it is one of the more palatable tracks on here, as you said.
I would very much agree.
Yeah, I like the vibraphone they have.
That is pretty cool.
That's nice.
I did enjoy the vibraphone.
Yeah. Can't go wrong with a little pitch percussion.
You really can.
Nah, unless you're Danger Mouse on this album specifically.
I don't really have anything else to say about it. It's just a nice come down from the last one.
Yeah.
So do you want to move on to track number 3?
I am curious about your thoughts on this one.
Track number 3 is called California, There Is No End to Love, Baba Barbara.
Yeah.
My first initial note is what is happening.
The like Pentatonics Beach Boys sample tribute that happens.
Yeah, and I don't know. Let me just read through some of the main things. Like, this song is largely about nothing.
Yeah, just California.
If I'm being honest.
As a broad concept.
It's like they take two concepts and put it together. That there's a place in California named Santa Barbara, and that love does not end.
Yes.
There's no end to love.
And the Beach Boys like California, and Barbara Ann is one of their songs.
Yes.
Let's do something with that.
Yes, exactly.
That was their whole thought process.
Pretty
probably.
Much. Who cares about the sunset, and what does that have to do with love? That's kind of what I want to know here. Musically, again, it's not the worst thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
But this is like, I feel like the other two tracks weren't really about anything. I mean, Ramone, that was about something. The last track, kinda.
Yeah.
This is like a huge like nothing song, if I'm being completely honest.
Yeah, I didn't really get what was supposed to happen besides, I guess, just being a tribute to like that style of music. Because like the music itself reflects like, you know, like the Western influence, like the surf rock a little bit. But lyrically, I could not tell you a single one besides the stuff in the intro.
There's like nothing to the song whatsoever.
Yeah.
I like the synthesizer, and the bass is not that bad. There were a couple moments where I feel like the bass is pretty prominent, and then there are other moments where I feel like I really can't hear it
Agreed.
that well.
Yeah.
So that is another thing. The drums kind of carry this, but I'm kind of bad sometimes at figuring out whether or not drums are mixed well or not.
I gotcha.
That's just a thing with me. Like I feel like other instruments, I'm like, oh, that's a nice addition. I can feel like it's perfectly placed. Sometimes with drums, I get a little bit like, are these good drums or bad drums?
I guess it's fair because like they're always so prominent in the mix, but it's just like some like minutia that can like change it from being good or bad.
Yeah. I feel like though, regardless on whether or not technically they are good or bad in this track, they do kind of carry it, if I'm being completely honest.
I like specifically, I like the way the crash cymbals sound on here. They sound almost like splashing water, which is fitting for the overall tone of this track.
Yeah. For California, the quintessential splashing waters of California, AJ.
It's what is the splashing water capital of the United States.
You heard it here, folks. Family Album deems California as the splashing water state. I don't really care for the song. It's upbeat, but
doesn't really do too much.
Really doesn't, and I wanted to like it.
Yeah, I think the guitar solo is okay on this one, but I think with a lot of these guitar solos, they're too short and they're too repetitive, so it doesn't really stand out. It's just kind of like an addition that doesn't really do anything.
I don't really have much else to say about track 3.
Word. Then let's hop into the next one. Song for Someone.
Listen, this person better be innocent as fuck. Let me tell you.
I swear to God.
Because the songs of innocence, I'm just saying. The song, like, the lyrics on this one are kind of dumb too.
Okay.
Like, it just kind of lists things over and over again. Like, I wrote down one of them. I think it's like, if there's a light you can't always see, and there is a world we can't always be. And it's like...
Yeah, these lyrics are pretty bad. Like, at least like in terms of structure and I guess like rhyme schemes, they're very easy. And like you said, they don't really say much.
Yeah.
Like they're very broad, I should say.
If this song is for someone, it surely isn't me.
Yes, you're not very innocent, Matt.
I'm not very innocent, no. You can't be a sex icon and be innocent, you know?
That's true. They just don't go hand in hand.
I wrote next, like, I hate how this song probably is going to get stuck in my head at some point because of just how repetitive
the
and
melody.
Like, how predictable the melody is. And even when I was reading the lyrics, I literally could hear the melody in my brain.
Gotcha.
And I've only listened to this like twice.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, okay. That just proved me.
Thanks, you two.
Thanks, you two. Thank
Very
you so
cool.
much, Bono. The song is very much of the times, though. Like, it sounds like it belongs in 2014, but it's still just really, really weird hearing Bono sing like this.
Yeah. In like the more ballady kind of style. There's also like another solo instrumental break that has Bono just shouting "yeah"
I remember that.
with like the same repeated pattern. I think like it is like a nice calm down from everything, like having like the brush strumming and like the guitar sounding like very 80s inspired with like the reverb on top. I don't really remember any of the lyrics besides the ones that you just said or like what they're really saying. I guess it could be a nice sentiment about whoever the song is for, but I couldn't really tell you much else.
I think it's supposed to be like a song of hope again, which I don't know. I can see someone maybe like kind of feeling hopeful with this song because like it's like you said, it's a nice sentiment.
Yeah.
But I don't think that it is exactly profound enough to give anybody hope, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's not like it doesn't go in depth enough, I guess.
If there is a light you can't always see, it's like, I don't know.
I mean, yeah, he's factually correct.
That's true. I have a question. I think someone, I forget, one of our guests said this, not on the podcast. Oh, it was Alec.
Okay.
I think he had told me that U2 is a Christian rock band.
Are they really?
Like low key.
I wouldn't be surprised.
They're kind of a Christian rock band.
I know really nothing about U2.
Same. I went into this not knowing anything. I've only listened to like Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For, and then the other really popular one.
I've heard like Bloody Sunday, Beautiful Day, probably another one. And then every one from this album.
Yeah.
Fortunately.
This is my first U2 album that I have listened to.
Please don't tease me.
It's my very first U2. So just please don't tease me. I don't have a lot to say about it.
Nah, we're
This
kind
is-
of checking these off.
This is another one where lyrically I'm just kind of like, it's there.
Yeah.
I feel like I have some more notes. There's like 2 or 3 more
yeah.
that I really like. Oh man. But let's hop in number 5. We got Iris Hold Me Close.
Yes, this song is a tribute to Bono's mom who passed away, which I guess is a sweet sentiment, like the last one. Though I guess instrumentally, this track didn't really do much for me either.
This is probably my like second least favorite track on here, if
Gotcha.
I'm being honest. It just takes way too long to get to the chorus.
Yeah, it does.
And I feel bad because I didn't know that added context about it being about his mom. But at the same time, like I felt like the verses took forever to get to the chorus.
It does drag.
But I will say, I do kind of like the production on this one, really more with like the guitars.
Gotcha.
It's like fun and like there's kind of like a delay effect that they do, which I think they're somewhat known for doing.
Okay. That makes sense.
I'm pretty sure they've done a lot of stuff where like they kind of had like a bit of a reverb and then like they like pluck like 1 or 2 notes on guitar and it would just kind of go like you know what I mean?
Yeah, just like that. Dude, that was really good.
Yeah, you just got to put some reverb and autotune on that, you know what I mean?
I gotcha.
The backing vocals going woo in the background sound way too much like sirens.
And they're also out of place on this track too.
Yeah, it kind of takes away from the intimacy, I feel like.
Also, the pre-chorus is like his vocal performance sounds like shit here. I don't know
Yeah.
why. Like it sounds like he just gave up when he was like singing.
Yeah, no, I can very much, I don't remember the vocals being very good on here. But all I have to say is that you need to free yourself to be yourself, AJ.
Amen. Bono said it best.
Just don't give up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Toward the end of this podcast episode, AJ's vocals are going to get very, very weak here.
Yep, that's true.
He's going to sound like RFK.
Honestly, the choruses here, they feel like filler in all honesty. Like it feels just like a little bit of a nothing track. And like the wispy, like the repetitive, the iris in the background. The iris. On top of the siren backup vocals. It's a very weird blend.
Yeah, I did not really care for this song, but I don't have much more to say about it.
That's valid. So shall we hop on to the next one?
Yes, the song that I truly think is the worst song on this record.
Interesting. Okay.
I did not care for it. It's called Volcano.
Yes.
I think the bass line is actually kind of good,
I like it. It's very crunchy.
but I do not like this song at all. I find the chorus really lazy. And this song suffers, in my opinion, from a thing that I talked about before of just how some words just don't belong in songs. And I think Volcano might be one of them.
And why is that?
Just, first of all, it's like a weird word where volcano, like, you know what I mean? The emphasis on it, I feel like, doesn't lend itself well to like
To lyrics.
to singing and lyrics in general. And then also, there's a lyric on here where it's like, do you live here or is this a vacation? Who in the fuck asks that? That's like roll me like a blunt because I want to go. That's
home.
like there's like a Venn diagram there of like things that nobody ever
Yes.
says. I've never been like, hey, like
It's basically like come here often, essentially, but like with extra steps.
with extra steps that don't matter.
Yeah.
It's like forgetting Sarah Marshall. Like it just reminds me, do you live here or is this a vacation? Like, what does that even mean?
Put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah, really. I'm not a big fan of this.
Yeah.
I think the instrumental is fine, but personally, the lyrics are what take me out of it the most. And I think this is kind of just an unnecessary song.
I remember like when this album was forced upon my phone, this was a track that I enjoyed listening to before I took it off my playlist. It's very much of its time in terms of like trying to reach for these other alt-rock influences. Like Jack White and X Ambassadors really stood out to me.
I can definitely see X Ambassadors without a doubt.
I think this one's almost like kind of baiting to be a single with just like how like earwormy and catchy it is and like how like hard rock like the chorus is and anthemic it is. So it does feel like a kind of forced, honestly. I don't think like too badly of it. I think maybe that's just nostalgia talking because it was like, you know, the one that I kind of liked on this big album. Speaking of, we'll get to that soon. You call me a critic, honestly.
That's fair though, honestly. I think instrumentally, like, it's fine. I just do not care for the lyrics.
Yeah, I guess I never really listened to it that much, so that's probably my issue.
I also think his vocals are very whiny here, and I don't like it.
I see.
This is one where I felt like his vocals did not sound very good.
We're coming up on one where I think his vocals sound awful. I think we have, in my opinion, the worst track on the album.
It's not good.
I do not like Raised by Wolves.
AJ, go off. I have some things to say, but I want to hear what you have to say first.
The hook on this song is so awful.
It's so bad.
Like Bono just screaming, "The Raised by Wolves," and the lyric structure of that also sucks. Where like it ends with "Raised by wolves, we were raised by wolves."
Listen, AJ, it's the title and the subtitle.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Raised by wolves. We were raised.
In case you didn't get that, we are the ones who were raised by wolves. Oh my god.
I do agree. This song really sucks. What else do you hate about it?
I think this is easily Bono's like worst vocal performance and production. Like he sounds flat on the verses, and his performance itself is just bad on the choruses. Just really straining his voice and yelling, making it just sound just bad, just flat out bad.
The mixing is really whack. I did write that in my notes.
Like the overall theme is about like overcoming tragedy and like coming back together stronger.
Yeah.
But you get taken out of that immediately, which is unfortunate.
This song wouldn't be so bad like in the beginning if it wasn't for the fucking breathing effect that they use in the verses. But it's just that threw me for a loop right away. I was like, wait, what?
Especially coming off Volcano.
Yeah. I was like, excuse me?
Like I wouldn't expect you two to like do this stuff. I don't know if they've done it before. Are they like the breath band as well as the delay band?
The breath band. That's crazy. Who else would be a contender for the breath band? I guess probably like
Maybe
Bare
Prince?
Naked Ladies on like Rock Spectacle when he's breathing in that one song.
It's possible. Yeah.
I don't know. This track has way too much of a buildup for not a lot of payoff in the choruses.
Not at all.
It feels very amorphous about what it's trying to go for, but not in like a good or an innovative way.
No.
Also, the song's lyrics and melody and vocals sound like the demo to an unfinished pro wrestling intro. Like the chorus, like you mentioned, it's so flat, like in the production. And I feel like I don't know if there's, I'd have to listen to it again if I'm being honest, but like I feel like something like drops out in the chorus and it just makes it sound really like almost unfinished and empty. So you're just left with fucking like Bono screaming and like, I don't know, like I hated how WWE was like the first thing I thought of when especially since like it's such an ass like way to phrase it. Raised by wolves, we were raised by wolves.
I think he says that 3 times in the chorus.
That's excessive.
Yes, the phrase raised by wolves appears 3 times.
I just feel like I was picturing like Seth Rollins like
walking out
to Raised by Wolves by fucking oh man,
maybe Tom would really like this song then.
Oh god, I don't think so. I don't think Tom would like this album at all. I'm sure he's probably listened to it. If I'm being honest,
that's a good point. He does have an iPhone.
He does, but he does use Spotify, so we should ask him about it.
Yeah, next Tom Hates albums. We'll keep that in mind.
I don't have much more to say about it, but I would very much agree. Although I think Volcano is the worst track for me, I could very much see why this track could be the worst track for you. Because this track is not good.
It really isn't. Everything just does not sound right. The production sucks. There's this weird like funk wah guitar that just feels so out of place.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's just a mess all around.
It really is. Shall we continue on to number 8?
Yeah, I don't mind this one.
That's literally the first thing I wrote in my notes.
Look at that.
For those also who had been paying attention, this is the song I used in the reveal of the winner.
Oh, gotcha.
Of the Bad Album Bowl. So I was familiar with this song a little bit. Just the green and like that part. I remembered.
That was good.
Thanks. I kill it with Bono. You know what I mean? Before we get into this track, I need to get this off my chest.
Yeah.
Have you seen South Park?
I have.
Do you know this episode that I am referring to?
The Bono episode?
The Bono episode.
Yes.
For those who don't know, there's been an intrusive thought in my brain this entire time where there's a South Park episode where Randy Marsh takes the biggest shit known to man. Yeah. It's like the size of a football.
He goes for the record.
So he goes for the record, almost beats the guy who like has the record, and then tries to go for the record of beating it again. And before he's actually able to make it, well, he does make it at the very, very end.
Yeah.
But before he actually makes it, it's revealed for some reason that Bono cares about this record.
Yeah.
And it's revealed that
Not only was he the record holder,
he is
the record itself.
Some scientists took the biggest crap of all time and it became Bono.
It gained sentience.
And I just need to say that is probably the most like extra steps way of saying that Bono sucks that I've ever watched ever. I mean, I could see a lot of people saying Bono sucks. I mean, Bo Burnham did.
Yeah.
But same time though, the amount of effort that they went through just for that to be the payoff of the episode,
punchline.
Genuinely, it altered my brain chemistry in the 6th grade. Let me tell you. But anyway, back to the actual track, Cedarwood Road.
Yes,
I don't mind this one.
Yeah,
it sounds like his voice has been been through a lot on this track though. Especially when he's singing the chorus and he's belting, it really, really sounds like it's like straining his voice.
Okay. I actually thought his performance like is one of the best on the album. I feel like here he's like very strong. You can like hear the emotion. It's very palpable. And he actually like sings like some nice timbre as opposed to whatever the fuck happened last track.
That's true. And what was the other track that you said he sounded bad? Was it California?
It might have been.
It might have been California.
There's a lot to choose from, honestly. Maybe it was Iris as well.
This is definitely one of the better tracks on the album, in my opinion.
Yeah.
One of the only things I don't like about it is that the song is way too long.
Yeah, that's valid.
And that's, of course, I feel like I said that like the last few tracks. Wait till we get to the next album. I feel like the backing vocals on this track don't really work, if I'm being honest with you.
I gotcha.
Like, they don't sound very they aren't mixed very well. They sound like they're getting kind of drowned out in the overall instrumental.
Yeah.
Like, you could tell they're there, but
they're not blending very well.
They almost sound kind of muffled. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. I also feel like this is a weird thing. I feel like one of the only other things about this song that I can really say is that this might be one of the first moments where I distinctly don't like the way the piano is mixed. Okay. Like, I feel like when I do hear it, it sounds like it's just kind of jutting out, if that makes sense.
I see.
Like, I don't know. Like, it feels almost a little out of place here. Like, I'll hear it and I'll be like, that's a weird place to slam down on a chord. Just a little bit.
It just goes back to the poor mixing on this album.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell happened here. Because they had 5 people.
Yeah, 5 producers, right?
Yeah, Danger Mouse, Paul Epworth, Ryan Tedder is a name I've heard over and over again. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he was pretty active in the Fueled by Ramen scene.
Oh, good for him.
Declan Gaffney is another one where I've never heard his name. Paul Epworth, I believe, worked with Rihanna.
Gotcha. Oh, How the Mighty Have Fallen.
How the Mighty Have Fallen, yeah. Oh my God. Let me just see.
I think instrumentally, this album's this song's decent. Like, it almost gives you like Red Hot Chili Pepper vibes a little bit.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, like when the drums come in, it has almost like this like Western, like a cowboy Western like sound to it, which is cool.
I could very much see that for sure.
Also, not at all what I was expecting from the title. I was expecting more kind of like a slow, like folksy ballad, but it's like a more hard rock kind of like, I guess, triumphant sounding track. I don't think it's too bad. I think this is one of Bono's best vocal performances. And I think the instrumental break is also really sick, where you have this like glockenspiel that accents the whole thing too, and it sets up the chorus really well. It's nice. Or not a glockenspiel, like a gok block, my bad.
There's like some pitch percussion. Yeah. What was I going to say? I feel like that's also kind of the reason why I'm like, why did you add piano on this?
Yeah.
Because, I don't know.
It was like unnecessary.
A little bit. I feel like the song is like already doing fine by itself. You don't need like someone to just have like a block of a piano chord just like randomly chiming in. Like, I don't know.
So like jarringly.
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes I'd be like, just what are we doing here?
Yeah.
But this one I think is, like we've been saying, one of the, like, if not the best, like one of the better tracks on here.
Yeah.
But I'm ready to talk about this next one.
Yeah, home stretch. We got 3 more. Sleep Like a Baby Tonight. I think this is also one of the worst tracks on the album.
Yeah. I was not expecting this song at all. Like, this is another attempt at trying to stay relevant, I feel like, with the times.
Okay.
Like, it to me, that's kind of what it sounded like. I didn't say it was a good attempt.
Yeah.
Like, I definitely feel like they were trying to sound a bit more modern, but it just was not...
the way to go. Like, why does Bono have auto-tune on this song?
I don't know.
Yeah, and like a modulator. It's very out of place on this album, and probably as U2 as a whole.
This song is also really fucking long.
Yeah, it is.
And I did not care for that. I also don't really know what this song is about.
This song is kind of wild about what it's about. It's about child abuse from the Catholic Church specifically.
Sleep like a baby tonight, huh?
Yeah, it's saying like the people who are responsible
are going to not feel bad about what they... Okay. That's... Wow.
Yeah.
I feel like... Eyes as red as Christmas. That's...
Because, Catholic.
Wow. That's very fascinating.
Yeah.
The song's also just, especially with that in mind, this song is way too intimate for that. A little bit. I gotta be honest. I feel like that just made me dislike the song more.
Yeah. Maybe it's supposed to be like an uncomfortable listen, but it's not. The uncomfortable part probably comes from like unintended like choices.
Because here's the other thing too about it, right? I didn't know the meaning of this song.
Yeah.
I took this as just like a sexy song.
Okay.
So I'm a little bit like, why? Because first of all, I was like, if this is supposed to be a sexy song, nobody should say you're going to sleep like a baby tonight.
Keep that out of there.
Because that's the babies, man. Babies make or break music. Like I mentioned before.
Yeah.
It's not just keep babies out of this.
Yeah. This is not a song where babies like make a song.
No.
Make it. Yeah.
Absolutely not. Whether it's actually like sound effects or in the title, just keep babies out of this.
Yes.
It's just a weird fucking way to phrase that.
Yeah.
Especially like now with the added context, I can see what they're going for. Especially with the added context now, it's like, why is this even on the album?
I don't know, because it doesn't really fit. I mean, they have like some quote unquote commentary tracks like before, but they're very, very broad on like what they're talking about.
Yeah, this is like a very specific and
issue.
like relevant issue. Don't get me wrong. But like, this is not at all like
what I was expecting.
No, especially 3 tracks to the end.
Yeah.
Not exactly what, you know what we need? We need a public fucking, we need a PSA song about this issue in the Catholic Church.
Yes.
Oh my God. Wow. That's wild.
I guess they are a Christian rock band.
Oh man. Sorry for going on that bit of a tangent. Just wow. That really, really blew me away. Yeah. I did not know that was the meaning.
It was strange when I looked that up.
I will say, back to actual things about like this, how the song sounds.
Yeah.
I don't love his falsetto on here. He does not make it.
He does not pull it off.
No,
not at all.
No, maybe he could have like a while ago when he was at like the peak of his career, but this is not working for him, especially with this instrumental and like the sort of
the context behind it.
And what was the thing? It was like the vocal harmonizer.
Oh, I think either auto-tune or like some kind of like modulator or something,
yeah,
vocal effect.
It's weird. It was giving Stars by Fun, like low key. But yeah, I wrote weird fucking song.
That it is.
But now I think it's weirder fucking song, if I'm being honest.
I mean, there's some like interesting moments, like some like the twinkling guitars almost sound like Radiohead at one point, which is neat, but not fitting for the album.
Or the band.
Or the
if
band.
I'm being really real.
There's a really strange, crunchy guitar solo that happens like towards the middle. There's some nice like marimba or something that kind of like represents like a baby mobile, which I guess is like a cool choice for what the song's about to like add to that the theming. Also of note, the snare is off on the outro, which is a very interesting choice. Not one that I find good or bad, but interesting. But yeah, I think this is easily one of the worst tracks on the album.
Man, that snare really slept like a baby on this track. You know what I mean?
One might say.
Do you want to continue?
Yeah, we got 2 more. I don't really have too much to say about these because I don't really remember how they sound.
Yeah, me neither. This next track is track number 10. Yep. This is Where You Can Reach Me Now. I felt like this song also really just did not sound like it belonged on the album.
It sounds like Radiohead again.
Yeah.
Like the guitars they sound like OK Computer.
I don't know why I phrased it like this. I wrote, this amazing song also suffers from being way too long.
This amazing
song. I don't know why I wrote it like that.
You're being facetious, Matt. It was good.
I guess.
Yeah.
I guess. 5 minutes of this is really not worth this track. Especially like this album isn't exactly like short either.
No, it's like 42 minutes, I think.
Yeah, like 40 minutes is like everybody knows that's kind of my like maximum amount Yeah.
Actually, I want this album. Keep going, man. I'm gonna do some research.
I would say I do like the theremin. I think it's a very... I actually like when people add theremin to songs. I feel like it adds like a very fun quality.
Agreed.
I've never like disliked a song that had a theremin in it, now that I'm really thinking about it.
I think mine goes to Tag Your It from the last week.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Unfortunately.
I do. Yeah, you are right. That song does kind of suck.
Yeah. Also, 48 minutes.
Oh, so almost 50.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah, no, I think this is a really weird addition, especially after the last one.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing here?
I don't really know what this song's about either. Like, I said this song's like not really super offensive.
No.
But like, it's not really doing anything to like reinvigorate my interest in the overall album either. I agree. I do like the theremin and like the funky break before the first verse. I said the gang vocals in the intro sounded pretty good.
I don't remember those.
Yeah. I mean, fair enough. There's some nice like tambourine and like some cool auxiliary percussion that happens around both the channels. And I like the 16th note hi-hats on the chorus. But I couldn't tell you how the song sounded if I tried.
Yeah, at this point, you're kind of just trying to like
Make it through. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Wow.
shall we end on track number 11?
The Troubles?
The Troubles.
There sure were.
I think this works as a closer only because this, in my opinion, from what I'm recalling, sounds like how most of the album sounded.
Yeah.
It's just largely bland,
Yeah,
if I'm
man.
being honest.
It's just like Songs of Innocence, the album as a song.
Yeah, summarized.
Literally.
Abridged,
Yeah.
even. It sounds like it's supposed to be on the soundtrack for Fast and the Furious.
I could see that.
Like, I remember thinking, like, wow, this is like real See You Again vibes, isn't it?
This has a feature too. I forget what
Oh, you're right.
their name is.
Oh, yeah, I do remember that. I think that's actually why, because I think there is like
there's like a female vocalist as well.
Yeah.
What's their name? So the name is Leaky Lee, who features on this track. I don't know anything about her besides this album.
Nah.
I think she's fine on this track.
Yeah, she's definitely the least offensive thing about it.
Yeah.
But this track is just kind of there. It's just there to close out the album.
Yeah, which I guess works as a closer for the thesis statement of this album.
Yeah.
It's just there.
I don't have anything else to say about this track if I'm being real. What an album.
Yeah, that certainly was a U2 album released in 2014. But Matt, what did you think of Songs of Innocence by U2?
This album is a little frustrating to listen to for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's marked by this weird sense of predictability and lyrical shallowness. While there are instrumental moments like the bass lines and like the synth textures, they're constantly overshadowed by these just like really nonsensical and vague yet simplistic lyrics.
Yeah.
Which unfortunately is very Coldplay, so I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
I find that most of these tracks suffer from excessive length and like, I don't know,
Weird choices.
stagnation,
Yeah.
like creative stagnation, I guess. That's what I wrote here. And then just really formulaic sometimes, like
Totally.
song
Yeah.
structures. I feel like they try to make these super like emotionally charged songs, but they just fall flat most of the time.
Yeah.
With maybe like one or two that actually work.
Mm-hmm.
There's also just like a noticeable inconsistency in quality.
Oh my god,
for the
production.
mixing.
Yeah, it's bad. Like it takes you out of it like pretty bad when you notice it.
Yeah, like what's the one track I said that like I really felt like the mixing was not good. It was Raised by Wolves. Probably has the worst mixing on the
Yeah.
entire album, if I'm being real. I don't know. The band's pursuit of a modern sound feels really forced and just lacking genuine inspiration, if
Yeah.
I'm being honest.
Like I don't really know what it's trying to say.
No.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's just overlong and forgettable largely.
Which I think is its biggest crime as to why people don't like it that much.
And why it was so frustrating for all of you guys who had to have it on your
Yeah.
iPhones and you couldn't delete it. You just had to have this whole padded out thing of nothing just at the tail end of what you really wanted to listen
Exactly.
to all the time.
Yeah.
So I can very much see how this could be frustrating. In terms of my ranking, this is a live ranking.
Ooh, on the spot.
This and the next track will be a live ranking.
Oh wow.
I did not
look
want
at
to.
that.
I didn't want to spend a lot of time with these tracks
Valid.
because I think we can kind of figure out how I feel about it. I think this track is better than the next album, so we can say that right away.
I would agree.
If I had to give it a rating, I would give this like a somewhere like 3 or 4 out of 10.
Gotcha.
If I'm being on, like maybe more 4, like it's like just under mid. If I'm being real,
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
this album is like so. I feel like there are some parts where this album is like so close to being like pretty like solid,
yeah.
all the way through.
But like there's little things that detract from that all the way throughout.
And it's really hard to ignore.
Yeah.
And the runtime does not help. So I would say I'm going to give this like a 4.3, 4.4 out of 10.
Word.
And probably, oh God, there's a part of me that really wants to put this in D tier. So I think I might have to.
Okay.
It's probably going to be at like the top of my D tiers.
That's understandable.
That's what I'm thinking.
I think that's valid.
Like almost at C, but like it's going to be definitely like the
Yeah.
highest one in my D tier.
I gotcha. I think that's very fair, Matt. So I don't think this album is awful. I think it's just painfully mediocre, which I believe is why everyone hated it and why a lot of people voted for it. Because, you know, being forced to listen to that, like if it was really bad, it would be at least memorable.
Yeah.
But because it is the way it is, it's forgettable. And having like being forced to listen to that on like your preferred like listening streaming service is going to drive you insane, unfortunately. Definitely a mixed bag. Like had the album just been released like maybe for free on iTunes instead of like forcefully downloaded, I think the legacy probably would have been a lot more positive, possibly even an inverse reaction to like what it is now.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
But it definitely is not without issue. The production on this album is all over the place. The album packs little to no punch, thanks in part to the drums feeling weightless on almost every track, and very compressed as well. The bass lines hit when you can hear them, but they have a tendency to get buried in the mix under the guitars and extra production.
Yeah.
And then Bono's vocals are a gamble on every track.
You can really see how long he's been singing.
Yeah, it
on
catches
this
up to him.
a little bit, especially on that falsetto track.
Oh my God, dude.
That was painful.
Like, they can sound perfectly fine, even deliver great performances on, like, Cedarwood Road, but other times they could just have weird stuff done to them, like on Sleep Like a Baby, or just sound really bad, like on Raised by Wolves.
Yeah, that shit was ass.
The instrumentals are solid, but unremarkable. They do what they need to for the most part, but they aren't really doing anything to really capture your interest. They just sound like the standard rock flair that was happening at the time.
Yeah.
Some decent moments, but they're either too short or too repetitive to really like matter or count, or the production affects that and you can't really like tell how good they are, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And like you said, the lyrics are nothing
Really.
on this album. Like I wouldn't know like half the context for these songs without looking at Genius while I listen to this album. I appreciate them like trying to comment on like societal issues, and like when they're done well, they're done decently well for like what they are. But like on Raised by Wolves, man, like how can you?
What are we doing?
Yeah, like what the fuck? How do we take that seriously when the production just like crumbles underneath of that? So I think Songs of Innocence, it's not a bad album, painfully mediocre, and just having that like forced down your throat is just worse than being awful. So I think I'm gonna give it a C-, subject to change to a D+. I think it's better than F1 Trillion.
Oh, yeah, honestly, because at least this has like an ounce of cultural phenomena.
Yeah.
Besides the fact of,
Post Malone with Country.
well, yeah, literally. So I'm honestly really glad that we talked about this album because I think it was so important, the fact that all of y'all pushed that through for us to discuss, because I mean, it was culturally significant for us, or for the people who had like iPhones and stuff like that.
Like a collective bad album that everyone like infamously remembers.
The fact that Corey Feldman didn't win, but this one,
a little shocking,
really shows the cultural impact, I think. And thank you, Family Heads, for giving us this album.
Yeah, just shows we got to do more bad album bowls in the future.
True. That's very, very true. It also just shows us that like the range of music over the last like 2 decades truly spanned.
Truly ebbs and truly flows.
Well, speaking of musical quality ebbing and flowing.
Ooh, boy.
Oh, man.
I'm excited for this one, Matt.
So, as you all are well aware, you voted in Nostalgia Critic's The Wall.
Yes, our first winner of the Bad Album Bowl.
And that is thanked largely by Tom Murphy saying over and over on his Instagram story to vote for The Wall. This does probably deserve the title of one of the worst albums of all time.
Oh, yes.
We're not going to beat around the bush.
No.
But before...
Oh, no, you go first, yeah.
Actually, I was gonna say, like, before I start prattling on about how much I dislike this listen, I was gonna say history, but I'll do a little bit of Matt's story because I feel like the audience needs to know. I had never listened to. This is a parody of Pink Floyd's The Wall that is paired with a video review of both the album and the movie. And I saw the review before listening to the actual album.
Yeah.
I've never seen the actual movie, though I will say upon listening to the actual Wall finally, I really want to see the movie.
It's really good. I love it.
Listen, I'm a sucker for animation, so I really, really want to see it. I also really largely enjoyed the commentaries that the real album was trying to portray that the nostalgia critics so disgustingly forgot about.
Yes, or misunderstood entirely.
So yeah, that is my experience with this album. I listened to the review first, but thankfully it has not tainted my experience of listening to the actual Wall, and I really want to watch the movie because I feel like that'll definitely add to my disdain toward this album.
I think it will.
Because let me tell you, I did not care for this at all.
I can't say I'm surprised.
Without further ado, though, before we jump in, AJ, can I please get some history?
Oh, you're not only going to get history, you're going to get some fucking H-story as well.
H-story?
I was there when this first dropped.
Oh, dude, this is from 5 years ago.
Yeah, 2019. Nostalgia Critic's The Wall was self-released September 8th, 2019, at least according to streaming services, as the video review itself came out September 18th, 2019. I'm guessing that date difference is like when it was published before it was like uploaded.
That makes sense.
But Nostalgia Critic's The Wall sees Doug Walker, a famous YouTuber, critic extraordinaire, partnering up with famous YouTuber and musician Rob Scallon to make an album parodying the music of Pink Floyd's The Wall to serve as a vehicle to review the film of the same name.
I gotta also say, I am a huge fan of Rob Scallon and Andrew Wong. They are two of my favorite YouTubers right now. They have like a bit of a duo thing going on YouTube right now, and they are flourishing in their career. So if this video is the only thing you know of Rob Scallon, please go watch his other stuff.
Yeah.
He's actually probably one of the best music YouTubers right now. But anyway.
The Nostalgia Critic's The Wall is regarded as one of the worst albums ever made, with the criticisms being directed at Walker for completely misunderstanding the film, reviewing the film with a lack of respect, and just having the most baseless, irrelevant, baffling critiques that either do not apply to the film or make no sense at all on a base level. And musically, the album is nothing to write home about either.
No. I'm very glad that I watched the video before listening to this album because I feel like if I only listened to this album, it would have been a horrendous experience for me.
Yeah.
I will be honest with you. I did not actually like go on Spotify and go, oh, I'm going to listen to this front to back. I watched the video twice.
The Nostalgia Critic video?
Yes.
Okay, did you listen to the tracks that weren't included on the album?
The Forgotten Song?
And there's another one on here. The song after this one is really good.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Because I had Spotify open while I was watching the video to make sure like, oh, I was on the right tracks. Yeah. And I don't know why they didn't include it, which is even weirder.
Which is honestly funny for one of their criticisms on this album too. It's kind of the pot calling the kettle black.
A little bit. Broad thoughts before we get into this.
So I have a little preamble.
Oh, please, by all means, some H-story.
Some H-story, if you will. I mean, if you want some H-story, I saw this video the first day it was uploaded. Unfortunately, I was still subscribed to Channel Awesome at the time, and I was curious because Pink Floyd is my favorite band of all time. Saw Doug Walker took a stab at watching the movie, one of my favorite movies of all time, and I was baffled at what I saw. Completely, utterly baffled. A friend of the podcast, Evan, and I had a big discussion about how awful it was. This album and video have been talked about to death. If you want a dissection on why Doug Walker fails as a critic and all of his criticisms fail for this review specifically, check out the Folding Ideas video dissecting the review. I'll put that in the description. It's pretty much the end-all, be-all critique of Doug Walker as a creator, as well as explaining like why The Wall is good and how he just completely missed that.
Both the movie and
the album. Yeah, because they go hand in hand. So for those curious, Doug did respond to some of the criticism. Mostly he didn't care.
Makes sense.
He was grateful to have grown a community that liked a majority of his videos. So having one video that people didn't really like just kind of rolled off his back. He stuck by what he said, even saying that he liked the movie, which in his words was a point people missed, but was happy that the review was getting attention and criticism. So he can take criticism well, but the unfortunate thing is he doesn't learn from criticism, which really stunts him as an artist and a creator. unfortunately. And also, I got a little behind the scenes scoops, a little extra information, because I mentioned on the podcast a while ago, I actually met Doug Walker in 2021.
It wasn't at Too Many Games. It was at something else.
It was at Too Many Games.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't read my age 3.
That's all right. The texts are constantly updating, you know.
Anyway, continue.
But he had a panel that Evan and I went to just out of curiosity, because I think it was free to attend. But someone asked him, asked a question about like the criticism, like what he thought about it, and he basically kind of gave the same responses he did in the video that he's put out, because he was interviewed on a podcast when he responded to it. But he also added the context that like he had like either a friend or like a family member who was passing away at the time, so he had other priorities to like really fixate his like despair on than like the review not being liked, which again is a fair point. But to not really take in what other people are saying and like reflect on that as a creator, be like, what can I do better next time? Or be like, you know what, you're right, I did make a bad video. He's just like, no, I think that video was good, but you know, people don't like it. Okay.
It's a very layered situation, without a doubt.
There's a lot that goes into this project, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But without further ado, shall we hop into these tracks, Matt?
Let's hop right in.
So this album opens up with In the Floyd, a parody of In the Flesh by Pink Floyd. As Anthony Fantano said, I hope you paid Scallon, because the instrumentals are the only thing that warrant any type of praise on this album.
I would agree. That's pretty much the only good thing I said in any of my notes about this.
And even then, they're not that great, because they're just lesser versions of Pink Floyd's actual instrumentals on The Wall, just very much watered down.
Watered down, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I wrote at one point. Off the bat, he just really does not sound good.
No, his vocals suck.
This is a weird... Okay, this is a thing that's so strange to me about this. As a vocalist, because obviously he's not a singer.
No.
You know what I mean? He's just kind of there.
A caricature.
A caricature,
Yeah.
right? One huge thing that I find so much fault with his vocals is that it's for some reason so easy for him to be all like high pitched and goofy, but when he actually tries to sing like a normal person, he can't do it.
Oh no.
And that's the thing about it, where I'm like, oh my God, this is fucking painful to listen to.
I think on this track specifically, he's trying to mock the vocal stylings of either Roger Waters or Bob Geldof, because that's Geldof sounds something like that in the movie, but Geldof has like a unique vocal styling, and he's actually a decent singer, as opposed to just Doug who's making fun of it because he sounds funny.
I didn't even think that, from what I listened to of the real album, I didn't even think that it sounded that out of place enough for it to be like that.
No, like
fucking caricatured.
Yeah.
Like it was to the point where I was like, okay, this is insane. Like how... I don't know what the recording process was like with this. Like, I'm sure Rob Scallon probably had like something to do with the mixing and like all this shit.
I would assume, yeah.
I can't understand how anybody in the creative process of this video went, yeah, you know, this is what we're doing. This is good.
Yeah.
This is the shit. They're going to love this.
Honestly, Scallon being a part of this project kind of baffles me too.
Yeah.
I think he'd have like the foresight, or like even just like the impulse to just be like, Doug, I don't agree with what you're saying.
No, for real, because like he is not an incompetent musician.
No,
like I've watched enough of his videos about like his guitars, like playing styles and like his covers and his music in general.
Yeah,
I've listened to enough and consumed enough of his content to know that he is like a competent musician who is very good at respecting artists and like artistic integrity. So it really is baffling that he would even agree to do this.
Yeah,
as somebody who like makes shit like Album in a Day or fucking Sonic Boom, where they make a song in like 10 hours.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get how, like, why.
Maybe it was just a lot of money. Maybe he was a fan or a friend of the channel. I have really no idea what the history is. If I could find anything, I'll throw it in the description. But it's his just contributions or just overall collaboration is just kind of baffling for the type of project this is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say, honestly, because like he respects artists generally. So
Yeah.
it's like, what the fuck?
It didn't
Pink
like
Floyd? Like, what
I
the
know.
fuck?
One of those iconic rock bands of all time.
Like, what? Anyway, about the actual song, some other things. I'm kind of impressed that Doug is like hitting the notes, but the problem is he's so obviously trying to do an impression that it's just so hard to stomach. It feels like gross to listen to.
I know, because he's just overly emphasizing or exaggerating like the vocal stylings of I think this is Bob Geldof he's trying to do. But you just takes you out of it. Like it's just so grating to listen to.
Yeah.
Which can be said about almost any Nostalgia Critic video.
Yeah. The back credit card.
The infamous back credit card. But yeah, just his vocals, they do, even like when he's not trying to do an impression, his vocals just suck.
They're not good. He can't sing like a normal person. He's so wrapped up in the fucking parody and caricature.
He can't take it seriously or try.
He can't even like speak in a deep voice.
No.
Like it's crazy.
Or they can't use pitches either. Well, sometimes they can, but that's in the video, not the album.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have much else to say about this track. We have a lot of other tracks to get through.
Yeah, that we do.
So, oh my God.
The last thing I'll say, it's not the worst track on the album in terms of like what it's trying to say at least. No. It's just calling it weird and lame, which, you know, that's a low bar for everything else we're going to get into.
I'm going to warn you guys ahead of time. Some of these notes are a little aggressive. Yeah, that's kind of it. Some of these notes are a little aggressive.
All right, strap in, Channel Awesome fans.
If you're still out there.
Yeah. Next up, we have When the Wall Broke Free, based off When the Tigers Broke Free, a track from the final cut that was put into the Wall movie, which was cut from the Wall. And this is kind of where the criticisms start coming in that just don't really, that come from like a lack of research or just a blatant misunderstanding of what's happening.
Yeah.
So initially, Doug claims that the movie was very poorly received, and you can like find it in like a bargain bin at like a store, which is just not true at all. It was generally positively received by critics. I think it almost doubled its profits from the box office because it was huge. It was a huge album. It was a phenomenon. They toured. They made a movie for it. So it drew in fans, even if it was like a very artsy project.
It's one of the big four, right?
Of Pink Floyd, yeah.
Of Pink Floyd albums. So like, I would imagine that it's not like...
Yeah, it's not like an obscure thing.
Like, oh yeah, the album's great, but the movie fucking sucks. Like,
no, man.
I feel like I would have heard something like that.
Yeah, it's regarded as one of the best rock operas of all time.
I'd concur from what I've listened to, yeah.
He calls it an art house ego trip, which this is like the thesis, the pot calling the kettle black, whereas the review on the album really serves to just serves Doug's ego, where he just makes this whole grand display under the guise of criticism when it's just him being able to like make a silly movie with his friends and just show how much better he is than like this project he doesn't like, or at least claims to not like.
No, for real. And I feel like, here's the thing. I know as critics, it's really hard to separate albums that like you, or just any media that you don't like, and while also kind of acknowledging the fact that it's pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, with Loveless, for me, for example, it took me kind of a while to get there, but like, I feel like I'm really starting to kind of get it.
Yeah.
Even if like the whole album as a whole isn't like my cup of tea. You know what I mean?
You see the appeal.
I see the appeal.
Yeah.
Like now I can acknowledge that there is really hard work that is done there, and it does work for the vibe it's trying to set out. But like, I feel like, although it's difficult, there still has to be an aspect of trying to, you know,
cover with respect,
and also understand the cultural like impact.
Oh my God, yeah.
Which I feel like he just completely ignores.
Yes.
And it's just, honestly, the real Wall is fucking Doug Walker's cognitive reasoning skills. Like, if I'm being honest.
You just can't break through it. This track really is dumb. It calls it like it calls it a movie for angsty kids when like the movie is really dark. Even the album discusses very heavy themes about just like post World War II culture in England and like how that influenced Roger's upbringing as a child, because it's semi autobiographical.
Yeah.
And basically saying like you only like this when you're a kid, but when you grow up you realize it's pretentious, not really saying anything of substance, and just overly emotional and gloomy art house ego trip. Basically, like it's just invaluable, and it's a pretentious art house movie.
He's claiming that kids watch this?
Yeah, he's like, I guess like teenagers, I should say. Angsty teens.
Gotcha.
But which is very far from, like, you can enjoy this like regardless of what age you are. I would say probably like teenagers is a good place to start.
I would imagine. Yeah, you don't want to be like a fourth grader.
Yeah,
well, maybe second grader and like watching this shit. I feel like that very much is the pot calling the kettle black, considering what happens like later in this video.
Yeah.
In terms of the actual song, because I've realized I've just been criticizing the man who made this song, which is I'm trying really hard not to. This song just gives off theater kid who is also a church kid trying to be like clever, and trying to like make a statement, and it's like, okay,
just gloomy. I mean, to be fair, all these instrumentals are like recreations of Pink Floyd instrumentals.
Yeah.
So it's just that, again, watered down, with like worse vocals and like shitty lyrics. So it does definitely give that, because it has this like very like triumphant climax with like the horns coming in as Corey Taylor's son looks in a mirror, all decked out in Pink Floyd drip. There's really nothing of musical substance on here besides that it just sounds like When the Tigers Broke Free.
Yeah.
So it's just not a very good follow-up.
It's also short, right?
It's decently short, yeah.
The next one's also pretty short.
Yeah, like 15 seconds. Why the fuck is this on the album?
I don't know. Like, get the hell out of here with your fucking Rick Grimes looking ass. Corey! Like, shut the fuck up.
This is like, I guess, an interlude. It's called Corey with an exclamation point, where in the video, it's the introduction of the weird furry thing that is made by Fennah.
That threw me for such a loop when we watched it. I was nothing could have prepared me for that. And then the fucking
we'll get to that
quote unquote payoff that is later. There's another track on here that like is kind of like was just included because it's sort of like an interlude thing. And I'm just like, why did you include this?
They don't need to be here because like that's like that's more important for the video than like a listening medium, because like you're losing the visuals by hearing just like the audio.
Yeah.
It's literally nothing.
No.
It's 15 seconds of just Doug Walker saying Corey.
For real.
Next up, we have a song that is not in the video. It's album exclusive. Do with that what you will. It's called The Song After This One Is Really Good. I don't like it, like with most tracks. It's basically their version of Another Brick in the Wall Part 1 and Happiest Days of Our Lives. They call it boring and unnecessary, but in the album standpoint, it bridges the gap between Pink's life as a child and his traumas in the school system. So it's a very necessary step. And they also kind of shoot themselves in the foot because they call the track boring, and to do that, they imitate the guitar riff that plays throughout after the verses in Another Brick in the Wall Part 1. But that only goes on for about a minute, and the guitar like melodies kind of like evolve and like they do new things to like keep it moving, and it transitions very nicely into Happy Days of Our Lives. Here they just play the same riff over and over again for like 2 minutes before going into the Happiest Days of Our Lives section. So it's like, well, your criticism is invalid if you're just doing that but worse and not understanding what their like intentions were in the original album.
I think the thing about it that's so crazy is that they complain about the runtime, right? That's like a huge thing they complain about.
Yeah.
And that this track is quite literally just padding out for more time almost. So I'm just kind of like, well, cool, man.
Yeah, like, again, like you're shooting yourself in the foot.
You kind of can't have your cake and eat it too.
Exactly.
Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I genuinely wonder if he thought that like what people would think about this album outside of the video.
I guess he thought it was like a cool bonus to like throw in. In the video, he calls it quote unquote a love letter to Pink Floyd, which is so far from the truth.
No. It's a ransom note.
Yeah. Honestly, it's a cry for help from the listeners.
Jesus fucking Christ. I think some of my notes from this track are also kind of more connected to the next one.
I gotcha.
A little bit.
Yeah.
But I did remember thinking like, is there like anything else to this track?
Not on this one. I mean, like it's split in half with like the Happiest Days of Our Lives parody where it goes through the lyrics where they just like talk about, you know, remember when Pink Floyd was cool and didn't make boring music, and it's like, all right, sure. And then also he kind of sounds like a Muppet with like the vocal production or like effects they have going on. And then they have like the build up into the next track where it has like these really shitty harmonies and like bongos that like go throughout both channels.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's very poorly made from an instrumental and from like a singing standpoint. It's honestly got nothing track with how much empty space there is.
No, for real.
Unfortunately.
For real. There really isn't like anything to this track at all.
No.
Shall we continue?
Yes, as we go into one of the worst tracks on the whole album.
We need more Victimization.
So this is the parody of Another Brick in the Wall Part 2, probably one of, if not the most famous song from Pink Floyd's The Wall.
Yeah.
Where it was a criticism over the British schooling system in the 50s as in a post-World War II society. England's primary school codes of conduct were very abusive.
Yeah.
And just like a pain to be involved in. But Doug Walker just equates that to high school sucks. His takeaway from the commentary on The Wall is that high school is lame. It's very boring. You should just man up and just deal with it because high school sucks for everyone.
I don't want to be that guy because, listen, I have an interesting like speaking voice, I think, but in the actual video, the one girl that went with the guy in like the fucking tunnel or whatever.
Yeah.
That shit is so annoying. She's like, wait, are we equating high school
To World War II?
It's like, shut the fuck up.
I know.
Like, oh my God. Like, yeah, sometimes, like, especially, like, at that point in time, yeah, it was probably fucking dreary as fuck.
Yeah, it was actually just abusive.
Like, why can't they talk about it? They were actually there.
Yeah.
You were born in a time when the school system, the worst thing about it was probably some kid who took a shit on the floor or something. Like, I don't know.
Like, it was better than what it was in the 50s, and it was also wasn't America, which he's equating it to. It was England.
And it was impacted by the war a lot more than America.
Doug Walker in both album and the video, he equates the inclusion of World War II as being very unnecessary and very insensitive because it doesn't really do much when compared to what else Roger Waters is talking about. But World War II is a constant theme throughout the original movie and the album. So he's not comparing World War II to like the schooling system. He's showing how World War II impacted how the schooling system would go going forward.
And how he pretty much had to roll with it in his day-to-day life.
Yeah, like he had no choice because that's what the government did.
He had all this shit on his shoulders and then also had to be a fucking developing teen.
Yeah.
Like that.
With his dad who died in the war.
Like, when you really look at it like that, it's just so fucking insensitive.
It's very tone deaf.
And then I think in the video, I'm sorry, I feel like I'm talking more about the video than the actual fucking album. It's hard not to.
Yeah, they go hand in hand.
But they also make the criticism like, oh, wow, now we're going to have a love ballad after we're talking about World War II. It's like, yeah, they're allowed to have lives outside of the war.
Yes.
Trauma is multifaceted.
Yes, this is an album about trauma, which he doesn't seem to understand. He just thinks it's a pretentious musician complaining about their lives when they're, quote unquote, not allowed to do that because they're rich and famous, which is a very shallow take.
Really?
Yeah.
Really shallow and closed-minded. Mm-hmm. As to the actual song, though.
Yes.
Everything about it just kind of sucks.
It's bad.
The lead vocals and the backing vocals are just really not good.
I think the only good thing as like the album version and the video version are a little different. It doesn't have the Dracula voice on the album.
That's true, though.
School is scary, bleh.
It sounds like the bear character from like the Cleveland show.
Yeah.
But it's just so bad, man. Like, oh my God. This is the one where they're also like marching and shit with the masks and stuff. And it's like, dude, like, it almost sucks that the fucking voice wasn't in it because then it would add more context, but also to the song itself, it's like, if nobody watched the video but listened to this album, they'd be like, what in the fuck am I listening to? Oh my God. Yeah. But the instrumental's fine.
Yeah.
It's just a very like droning, like intense, almost like marchable, like a beat kind of happening. Mm-hmm. And Doug Walker attempting again to sound like a normal singer, but not really.
He just sounds flat. Just flat, monotone vocal delivery.
Way too flat.
And then the harmonized like kids choir voices they have are just so obnoxious.
They're so bad, especially compared to like the actual album version.
Kids,
dude, like they're trying to sound like kids, and I'm like, this sounds worse than actual kids singing.
Exactly,
because at least they actually sound good on the regular album. Yeah. This is just like adults trying to sound like kids, trying to be kids, and it's
it's weird.
Oh my God, it's just a really, really weird situation. And again, like, you cannot grasp what the actual point is of this song without actually seeing the video.
I know.
And just because it might be supplemental to like some other thing you make, it doesn't mean that it can't also be like good on its own.
Yeah, like the wall
like
in the movie.
Wall itself. Yes, exactly.
A couple things I also want to talk about with the going back to like the kids choir, like they have the masks on in the video.
Yeah.
In the actual movie, that's like kind of a representation of how society like beats down and like molds kids to like be what their ideal version and like how they want them to contribute to society. Mm-hmm. Whereas in Doug Walker's version, it's more just like my girlfriend's like a clown, like a costume essentially. Just uses like iconography to like make fun of this movie. And then of course the infamous lyric, "Lol, so school sucks, grow a damn pair of balls." Again, didn't do any research before writing this review. The criticisms are very surface level and they don't apply. What he's saying just doesn't make any sense because he has no context or no desire to learn it either. So the song just fails entirely.
Yeah. Yeah. Shall we continue to the next track?
Another one considered, I think, one of the worst tracks on the album. We have So Long, Weird Song.
I find that it's so funny. He took out a lot of like the things in the video for the last song that would give it the added like
context
it needed.
Yeah.
But they're like, you know what? Let's include the bird noises though. Like that's necessary.
Yeah, because that's what the album did. It's stupid. This is the parody of Goodbye Blue Sky. Also awful in terms of criticism. He really just, from a baseline, doesn't understand that the movie is an adaptation of the album and then treats the movie like the album doesn't exist, which is a very weird dichotomy. I don't know. It's a cognitive dissonance.
This track tonally is also just so jarring.
Yeah.
From like what you heard in the last track. Mm-hmm. Just all of a sudden this like really peaceful way, where on the actual album it's a lot more like nuanced.
Yeah, it's a gradual decline.
Yeah. It's like so much better. But I guess they're trying to disrespect the album.
Yeah.
In a way, so it's like whatever.
Not really treating it with the respect it deserves.
No.
But here we get Doug Walker equating the song about World War II to Roger Waters wallowing in his self-pity over his dead dad and traumas of growing up without a dad in a post-World War II society. Like I mentioned, World War II is a very pivotal theme on both the album and the movie, and it played a part on how Roger Waters / the character in the album Pink became the way he was. But Doug thinks it's insensitive to include this theme in the album and the movie, and that the animated representation of the war is too silly to take seriously, especially paired with a song about hating high school, in his words.
Doesn't he have like a lyric on here that's like, oh, don't worry about the messages, like just smoke a bong and you'll get through.
And it's so long, Oscar bait song, smoke a bong so we'll feel less wrong.
It's like, dude, shut the fuck up.
And like calling it Oscar bait is like so dumb too.
Yeah. Because that's not, I don't even think they were trying to go for that.
Like the album came out first. So one, it wouldn't be eligible for an Oscar when the movie came out. And two, it was meant for the album and it was just supplementally included in the movie.
It just really acknowledges how close-minded he was when he made this.
Yeah, like didn't do any research or cared to learn.
The instrumental, like, it's fine. Like it itself is not offensive, I don't think. And like I think Rob Scallon, poor Rob Scallon. I think Rob Scallon did like an okay job trying to recreate it, but at the same time, it's like paired with the sentiments, it's not like a good listen. It's not a good listen whatsoever. And like the fact that the instrumental is just, again, kind of watering down like the themes and just the movie over to underneath fucking Doug Walker's like
high-pitched squeals,
really fucking hard to listen to vocals.
Yeah.
It's just not a good time.
It's not a good combo.
No, it's really not.
I think the keys kind of suck on here. They sound like a pre-installed font on like a Casio.
Yeah, no, I could very much see that too.
And like you said before, it is weird they decided to keep some of like the extra bits in like from the review in the album. Like they keep in the whole like the conversation about like, are we really equating World War II plot like at the very end of the song, when they cut out other like skits from the like tracks too, which is really weird. Well, some got to say and some didn't. Either take them all out or put them all in.
I just really hate how when I was watching this movie and like listening to these songs, you could just really tell they all thought they fucking like cooked.
Oh my God, yeah.
Like they were really sucking their own dicks with this shit. Like it was just, oh my God.
But it was just really hard to watch.
Oh my God. Yeah, it really was.
Next up, we have the Forgotten Song, which is a parody of Hey You, which is not in the movie itself.
It's on the album, yeah.
It is on the album, but not on the movie.
It starts disc 2, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's all this song is basically about. Doug saying like, why isn't Hey You in the movie when it's one of their biggest songs? But it was going to be in the movie, but they cut it because it was unnecessary. That's literally all it was. It was a pacing issue. It didn't really fit. It was unnecessary. They could just go from Goodbye Cruel World into Is There Anybody Out There? That was it.
Oh, okay, yeah. You're criticizing why this song is not in the movie, yet nobody's allowed to criticize why added context from your video is in your album.
It's just in the album.
Like what? It's so weird what hills he's trying to die on.
I know, man. It's strange. Also, I think this is one of Doug's like worst just normal vocal performances.
Yeah.
All throughout, just so flat, no like effort. And this track is kind of like the paradox of the Nostalgia Critic, where he's simultaneously trying his hardest and putting no effort in at all.
That's kind of what the whole experience of Nostalgia Critics The Wall is.
Exactly.
Like, because there are parts, at least in the video, where you can like be like, oh yeah, wow, that took a disgusting amount of effort for like
little payoff.
Very little payoff, but it also looks like a third grader animated. fucking, there's some shit on there that looks like bowling animations.
Yeah, like the MS Paint stuff in the last track.
Oh my God. It just crazy fucking shit, man. Yeah, this song, it should be, I'm glad it's called the Forgotten Song because it is largely forgettable.
Yeah.
And I hated the way it sounded, if I'm being honest.
I mean, fair enough. It just doesn't compare to like Pink Floyd's actual instrumentals. Like a lot of these solos that like are included in here are almost like bar for bar the same thing, but they're never going to compete with like David Gilmour's guitar work. And also for some reason on this track, like the motif, the melody of Another Brick in the Wall is like a constant theme throughout the album. It shows up a lot. On here, it just sounds like farts, I said. It just sounds really shitty and like chunky. It just sounds bad for some reason.
Yeah.
He calls the album too long and boring in like the last verse. We're just kind of like straying away from the criticism of Hey You and just saying just blatant misunderstandings,
Just taking
his opinions.
Just taking any subtle jabs he can take.
Pretty much.
Not even subtle. Just taking any jabs, like grasping at straws that you can pretty much find.
And for like an album that's trying to be funny with all these critiques, it really isn't.
It's not. It just comes off as really obnoxious.
Yeah.
And pretentious without having the fucking like creds.
Yeah, it's like not clever. It's just insults and like curse words that just really just take you out of it. Like for calling the movie like juvenile and like for like angsty teens, like these lyrics really speak volumes to Doug's character. It's crazy.
Wow, he named his entire demographic. That's crazy. Juveniles and angsty teens.
That's wild.
Oh my gosh. Anything else to say about it?
Not really. We move on to another nothing track. We got Is There Anybody Who Cares?
This is the one. This is another one. This one isn't a short one, right? I feel like was the last one short and then this one?
Like the last interlude?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one was like 15 seconds.
That was short.
This one's like 3 minutes.
I think it's so dumb. Like, again, random shit he include. Like, why did you include the sleepy noises?
I know, dude. Oh my God.
Because, like, how is anybody supposed to grasp what is going on without watching the video? How in the fuck is anybody supposed to grasp, like, yeah, this is what, like,
I guess he's just supposed to just be like, wow, this movie really is boring, isn't it? I'm falling asleep listening to it. But it's really just distracting having these noises just like pan through the channels as you hear Scallon like mimicking David Gilmour's guitar work over top of it. And then Doug's just flat monotone delivery of, is there anybody who cares? It's literally a nothing track. And Doug, I don't care, frankly.
No.
To get through this video.
God, I literally didn't write anything else about it, just besides the fact that it was just baseless imitation.
Yeah, for the most part. That's all it is. But we move on to another one I would consider one of the worst on the album. We got Comfortably Numb. Why the fuck is this 6 minutes long?
So this is the thing about this track too, right? Comfortably Numb, the song that this song is parodying, is the only track on here on the original Wall that like I knew, and I liked that song. It's a good ass song.
One of the most famous.
It's great. My whole thing is, though, like, again, misses the point entirely with that track. Because that track is just basically about how, like, they kind of have to be numb and numb away, like, life.
Yeah,
pretty much.
In context of the movie, Pink, the main character, is overdosing, going on a drug trip, and he's kind of, like, reminiscing about his childhood while simultaneously having a conversation with the doctor who's trying to, like, resuscitate him. And it's, like, a nice kind of, like, reflection to see, like, where he started and like where he is now and like how that shifts where he's going like after this track. So it's a very like deep layered track, but here he's just talking about how the movie is dumb.
I didn't even like know that context for like the movie, but for the song, like you kind of just get like a sense of like you're numb because you kind of can't like process anything because there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And he just took the time to be like, oh my God, just to be so fucking like cartoony and just like completely lack of effort. Like, oh my God.
He just calls the movie boring and pretentious. He says it's pseudo deep. He says it's for pretentious art house losers who want to be seen as intellectuals. And for complaining about the runtime of the entire movie, he includes all 6 minutes of the original song, which is wild.
I guess he felt like he had to because like this is one of the most popular songs of Pink Floyd just in general. But it's like, dude, oh my God. Like,
it's frustrating.
For someone who says this is like a love letter to the album and the movie, it's like,
it's not.
You're not doing a good job portraying that.
No, and especially because he stands by the opinion that he likes the movie, which is wild, like after this video was released, but you don't get a sense of that at all in any of these lyrics, which is crazy.
God, his vocals are just so bad here too. Like they're so fucking
The high
bad.
pitched choruses.
Dude, I was getting to like throwing my headphones off my head territory. Like,
I understand.
It was getting to the point where I was like, I cannot do this anymore.
Here, Doug also kind of self-reports about his creative process, where he admits he's become complacent while watching the movie and refuses to even try to understand it. He just writes it off as bad, which is very telling for how his creative process, unfortunately. There's this like MIDI-ass organ that comes in on the second verse that sounds really cheap. And he also, again, comes back to the criticism of millionaires can't be sad because they have everything that they've ever wanted. And also, I feel like we don't have to be super faithful to the source material on this track. Because, like, I wish the runtime of a lot of these were just more in line with the review. Because a lot of the tracks in the review are, like, cut down to fit, like, what's happening on screen.
Yeah.
Here they're extended, which I guess for a Nostalgia Critic fan is awesome. But, like, we don't need that.
It's all I wanted and more. Oh, my God.
4 more minutes.
Oh, my God. Yeah, no, it's just... this was painful.
Yeah.
As one of the only Pink Floyd songs, besides like most of the songs off of Dark Side that like I knew and genuinely liked, it was just really painful to listen to because like I genuinely like Comfortably Numb as a song.
It's like we already have to listen to like 4 minutes of these shitty lyrics. Like, why do we need an extra 2 minutes for a watered down version of the guitar solo? It doesn't need to be there.
No. Sorry, Rob.
Yeah, it's okay. We'll get him next time.
We ready to go in the Floyd again?
Yeah, we're getting close to the end, fortunately.
Jesus, thank God. Reminiscing about this album fucking blows.
That it does. And speaking of reminiscing, this is a reprise of the In the Floyd. So we get another interpretation of Doug's impression of Bob Geldof's vocals, which suck.
They're so bad here.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
Because there's so much of it.
Someone, I say again, someone was in the studio or whatever fucking place they recorded this and straight up was like, you know what, Doug, this is it. This is exactly what the people need right now.
Just let it happen.
You fucking squealing like a fucking weasel, like oh my God, shut the fuck up. Like I could not stand this. And like, I don't remember what exactly they left in and took out with this song.
Yeah.
But I really hate what they did to the meaning of this song too. Because this is also just a really insensitive, almost like first world problem take.
Yeah. Because he's not really talking about the movie at this point anymore. He's talking about his personal life.
Yeah. And like culture surrounding Twitter.
Yeah.
And it's like... Because this is the part where it's like, hashtag,
Yes,
hashtag, like that part.
Yes.
Dude, oh my fucking God. Just so shallow. So like, because nobody who's ever made like a comment about cancel culture ever actually did it well.
No.
And I love how he thought that he could do that well and also use this as an avenue to do that, period.
To talk about him and his experiences with that.
And it's like...
Like, why are we talking about this on a review of The Wall? Like, save this for something else.
Literally, just make like a separate fucking video.
Don't make it twit longer.
Don't involve someone else's art just to make this a vehicle for your frustrations with cancel culture.
Yeah.
It's so stupid.
It really is. Like,
I think like technically this is like more attached to the next song.
Yeah.
But like this is kind of... A lot of these songs kind of flow into one another, so I was having trouble differentiating.
Yeah, like which one was which.
Yeah.
I mean, that's valid.
I know this is at least the beginning of the point where he starts dressing like a
fascist. Yeah.
Yeah, no, this track also just has like no substance to it, and it begins the next track, which I really, really hate.
That one's really bad.
Before we get to that though, AJ, what do you like about this track?
Oh, what do I like? Absolutely nothing, in fact.
It's gonna be wild when at the end of this we're both like, yeah, like a 9 out of 10.
Yeah,
I feel
we pull a fucking Nostalgia Critic.
yeah, we actually really like
it was pretty good. A little pretentious at some points, but overall pretty good. Liked it. But this track fucking sucks. This whole portion in the video is awful because the original In the Flesh is supposed to be kind of a commentary on just the fascist direction that like the government went post World War II, a little bit of the Thatcher administration, as well as Rogers' kind of perceived interpretation of like celebrity and like fan culture, which honestly a little ahead of its time.
Yeah,
which is like pretty cool
for post World War II like ideals and like takeaways. That's kind of very ahead of its
just
time.
Like
I'd
the
argue.
influence like celebrities have on like their fans. It was like it's horrifying to like see when it's taken to that extreme, especially in the movie. Like it gets dark. And the album like tries to, you know, like do that their interpretation of that, but like seeing it visualized is just like horrifying. His interpretation is that like the Thatcher administration is like the only thing they're criticizing, and like if you have like a bad person, like you can take me and like put your face here. I represent all like the evils in the world, and you can cancel me because that'll make you all feel better. When it's just completely off the rail from the movie at this point. It's just his responses to like the change the channel movement from like a couple years ago, as well as people just being mean to him on Twitter in general. It's just a mess of a track.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm happy for his sake that it was cathartic for him, but at the same time,
Like, why are we talking about it?
like, dude, address this in a separate video. Don't like involve a review of a movie
to like stand on your soapbox. It's wild.
It's crazy.
Musically, this is easily one of his worst vocal performances on here.
Yeah, this is he's really up and down with the squealing and then the
like inflections that he has, like the put your face here.
It sounds like he's trying to do like a really bad like David Bowie impression at times. Like really not like Peter Rugman, who does it really well.
Yeah,
just fucking like put your face here.
It's like an AI interpretation of what Bowie sounds like.
Jesus Christ.
Also, the instrumental just sucks here through. It's so neutered in comparison to like the actual instrumental. It's just very like subdued, like bongos and like guitars for some reason, instead of like the grandiose like anthem that like the song is supposed to be to represent this rally that's going on. This was like one of the instances where like Rob Scallon kind of falls flat for me.
Bit, yeah. And it really sucks too, because like he's so good at like guitar and drums.
Yeah.
But like I would kill to know like his thoughts on it
man.
Now.
I wonder if he like made a response, like or like just talked about his experiences working on it.
It's crazy to think how prosperous his career has been since this video.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I didn't even fucking know that he was associated with Channel Awesome or the Nostalgia Critic in general until you showed it to me like a few weeks ago for the first time, and I was like, wait a minute,
is that Rob Scallon?
Is that fucking Rob Scallon of Sonic Boom? Like, Jesus Christ. But this track kind of goes into Waiting for the Point.
Yeah.
So if you have anything else to say, we could just go right into it.
Nah, it's a direct follow-up, as you said. This is their parody of Waiting for the Worms, leading up to the climax of the actual Wall album. The transitions also suck.
They're not good.
Yeah.
Really bad. Super jarring. Super abrupt. Feels like you're diving into like a sheet of ice on a pond. Like, it's weird.
Like, because the original album, like almost all these tracks flow into each other very naturally.
Very nuanced.
Yeah, here it's like very jarring, a complete tonal shift every time, and you're just like not ready. It's like a jump scare every time.
No, for real.
He also sings these awful high notes in the beginning of the track that are just so bad.
I wrote his voice makes you want to punch him in the face.
Yeah.
Like low key, like, oh my God. This one is weird because I feel like out of all of the tracks on this record, this one has like the most distinct like sound profile, I feel like. And that being bad, like that is the sound profile.
For this whole album.
But oh my God, like Jesus Christ. And this is where he really leans into like the hashtag, like that thing. That's my impression of his brother who's in the video.
Yes, Rob Walker.
Because that's what he fucking sounds like. Hashtag,
he does.
Hashtag.
Like the bear from the Cleveland show. I was watching Nostalgia Critics The Wall.
Hey, you're watching Nostalgia Critics The Wall?
Holy crap, Lois, this is worse than the time I was in Nostalgia Critics The Wall.
My name is... Oh my gosh, anyway.
It's a continuation of all the themes from the last track. This has nothing to do with the movie whatsoever.
No.
This is all just Doug on a soapbox talking about Twitter and cancel culture.
And the fucking, in the video, for those who haven't seen, it's a bunch of walking phones with like this symbol on it.
As opposed to hammers in the movie.
Also, too, like, because technically this relates because the lyrics do apply. This is such like Gen X core, like fucking almost borderline conspiracy take on cancel culture. Like,
where it's like people just choose celebrities to like take down because they're bored and they want to feel better about themselves or they're not heard.
Yeah, like, and while that might be the case with some people, it's just so fucking insane to me how like he just kind of took that and ran with it for this part of the album that he's like quote unquote making an homage to, which I still can't believe. But the thing is, it's like I just don't get why he had to bring this up in general?
I don't know. It does not fit at all on the album.
The only reason I can see why he wanted to do it like this was because he probably was scared that if he talked about like tried to parody the theme more closely, he probably thought that it was going to receive criticism. And it's like, well, look how that worked out for you.
Yeah.
You basically took like an actual fucking like issue and turned it into your own like
rant, essentially.
Rant about cancel culture. And it's like, nobody cares, because it's not like they were a big enough YouTube channel where they were like, oh yeah, like we need to save the Nostalgia Critic. No, I didn't discover the Nostalgia Critic until like my 20s.
Oh really?
No.
Wow.
I had never heard of the Nostalgia Critic until my 20s.
Damn. Unfortunately, I was hooked since middle school.
Oh, don't worry, I used to follow a lot worse YouTubers. Trust me on that.
Who actually are victims of cancel culture.
Yeah. They probably enjoyed this. Oh yeah, you know what I mean.
Like, that speaks to me personally.
Oh my god! But Jesus Christ, it's such a dopey interpretation of this album's track, like the real album's track. Just oh my god,
instrumentally and like musically, there's so much flat delivery on the verses, and the high pitched Waters voice he tries is just such a bad impression. It doesn't like sound good to listen to either.
Trying this angle in like 2019 is a little crazy.
Yeah,
because at this point, like as a theme of oh my god, cancel culture, I feel like that was so over in like maybe like a year or two ago. I don't know, because I mean it kind of surged again, like with cancel culture being more active like later.
Yeah, but
like in later years, more in the middle of quarantine. But like I also feel like just ranting about Twitter as a whole was a thing that just was not still happening anymore. You know what I mean? Like people just complaining about Twitter. I mean, now we do for a different reason.
Exactly.
But like, I mean, just
for this reason specifically,
capitalizing on your Twitter beef, like on a public platform. Yeah, that was like a years ago thing. Like I feel like in 2019 it's a little crazy. That's what I'm trying to get at.
I understand. And I mean, Doug's always been behind the times. I mean, you've seen his production quality.
Oh man, I mean, we're about to get there in a second.
Oh yeah.
Jesus fucking Christ.
We got I think 4 more tracks left. These next 2 are quick. Next up we have Bring the Runtime Down, a parody of Bring the Boys Back Home. Again, he talks about the fucking Oscars for some reason. Can't let that go. And this track is also it's just mean. Like, he's like not really saying anything. He's just calling the movie boring and like not worth watching.
In like a Les Miserables, do you hear the people sing kind of vibe? And it's like, it's so funny how people think, it's so funny how he thinks at this point in the album, he's thinking, well, now that I've really got them hooked on this album, because they're totally not bored with what I'm saying.
Yes.
Now I can make a complaint about the runtime of The Wall. And it's like, dude, we are 12 tracks in of you going on about literally like such bullshit. Just bullshit after bullshit after bullshit. It's like, why?
I don't get it's just like tone deafness. I don't know, man. This one's just it's pretty much a nothing track. Like the original track is almost a transition song in a way, where it's just bridging the gap between I think The Show Must Go On and Comfortably Numb.
Yeah.
Something like that.
I believe so. Because I remember this coming before Comfortably Numb.
Yeah, it's definitely before Comfortably Numb. I forget what comes before that. I'll put that in the description. Maybe it's Vera.
If we're talking about the actual song, the vocals are fucking awful. It sounds like the Muppet Show.
Yeah, just all these
like,
vocal
like,
harmonies.
Fucking, like really deep voice.
Rob
people.
Walker is back on this one. So there we go.
Oh my gosh. There's like no harmony. They're all like singing in unison, and it's like, which I don't think I want that. If I'm being quite honest with you,
it sounds bad when they all like come together. It's just a waste of a slot on here.
It really is. It's this is another instance of like, why did we include this?
Yeah,
but you didn't include other vital things about this. Like, I feel like I've listened to parody albums that include the right amount and exclude the right amount if there were like video adaptations. So it's just so weird to me that like
he could not like strike that balance.
No, like not at all. Crazy shit, man.
And speaking of that, there's a prime example in this next track.
This isn't even a song.
No.
This is the part, there's a couple things, and I'm going to talk more about the video probably on this one as well. This is a skit where he's trying to talk to Corey.
Yes, this is also called The Deeper Meaning.
The Deeper Meaning. There's a skit where he's trying to talk to Corey and he's like, so are you finally seeing the, and then like a phone starts ringing and then the whole bit is like he's trying to say what he's trying to say, but like the phone
keeps getting cut
ringing.
off.
And then finally he's like, what? And then that part where he's like, what? He like opens his mouth really wide and for some reason the bottom half of his teeth are like the most yellow teeth I have ever seen in my entire life. Like I could not believe that they didn't even try to fix that in post.
Damn.
Like, Jesus Christ.
I never noticed that.
Oh dude, it was horrendous.
I was more distracted by what comes after his phone call with Fennah.
Oh, we'll get to that.
Which they leave out as well, which is again more vital context for what's going on next.
Jesus fucking Christ. Like this, I don't even know why they included this.
Yeah.
Like, they literally just included the phone call bit. I don't think they even include Corey talking.
No, actually they don't. Do they in the end of the trial? I don't think they do.
I meant on this track because this is the part where he's like actually talking to Corey and the phone's ringing.
Yeah, but Corey doesn't talk till the very end.
Oh, that is very true. That is very true.
But yeah, it's just Doug just doing the bit about him getting interrupted by the phone for 15 seconds, and then it goes into the next track.
The next track.
Oh yes. Here we have Fennah's The Trial.
Now, before we talk about this, the first time I watched this, boy howdy was I confused.
Yes, as was I when I saw this when it first came out.
Do you want to explain? How about you explain what
Pink
goes
Floyd's.
on in the real version?
Yes.
And then you do what Doug does in his version.
Sorry, that was my miscellaneous furry creature just scuttled across the coffee table.
AJ slapped his knees getting ready to talk about it and it scuttled away.
Yes.
It's very,
it was sitting on my lap this whole episode.
which, I'm not going to say that. Never mind.
Anyway, in Pink Floyd's The Wall, the climax of the album is on a track called The Trial, where Pink, the main character, is confronted with all of the proverbial bricks in the wall, which are physical representations of his trauma that cause him to mentally isolate himself from the world, such as the schooling system, his mom, his overbearing mom, his emotionally abusive wife. And then he's just kind of like puts himself on trial out there to understand like why that's not a way to live and how like he needs to just be in touch with the real world and not just isolate himself, ultimately resulting in the wall being torn down and then the cycle like beginning anew at the very end. And it's animated in the movie by Gerald Scarfe. It's beautiful animation. They have physical represents. Each brick in the wall has like a physical character representing that like piece of trauma. Like the schooling system takes on the form of his teacher. His wife takes on the form of like the scorpion, and then his mom is like a warplane that turns into like an actual brick wall that like holds him in her arms. So it's very like profound imagery that makes sense for the themes of the album. And Nostalgia Critic decided to hire a furry artist to emulate that. And his big criticism of The Trial is that they introduce all these cool characters but don't give them enough backstory to matter, as opposed to Fennah's characters, who are so rich with character and so important to The Wall that like they're cool and they do it well when Pink Floyd's doesn't, which is incorrect because in Pink Floyd's, each character represents a piece of trauma that we've been discussing throughout the album. For Fennah, these are characters we have not seen at all throughout the entire review, and we need more context to learn who the fuck they are if we want to like actually get this.
The thing about that too is like they're most like you said, these people, these characters that are animated in the actual movie, they are people that are basically like manifested caricatures of like people in Pink's life.
Exactly. Yes.
Like that's the whole thing. And it's like, I know Doug Walker makes the joke that somebody was like falling asleep in the movie, like during the movie. That must have been what actually happened, because like,
how do you not pick that up?
Like, I mean, I've never seen the movie, but like,
you can pretty easily gauge what that's supposed to be with the lyrics themselves.
Because like, at least in Doug Walker's video, it showed like the teacher, like his face. Yeah. Because it has like the headmaster, like schooling hat and everything. And you do see like a cartoon version of the teacher, like in like a slideshow kind of panning side to side in the middle of one of the songs. I forget. But it's like, how do you not pick up on that? Like, even I've gathered that much and I'd never seen the actual movie.
I know.
So it's like, what? Like, also, you went through this is the part of the video that obviously used most of the budget.
Yes.
Because it's unfortunately very well animated for the most part in comparison to everything else.
Exactly.
It's very well animated just to drive a point that really has no basis or grounding whatsoever.
Exactly.
So unbelievably home. And it's like, I don't understand. He even has people with different voices like chiming in. And it's honestly, if I'm being honest with you, like I'm not too upset about that just because it wasn't Doug Walker's voice, if I'm being real.
True.
But this song is just 5 minutes of him just being so immature about, like, I guess the movie's pacing.
Yeah, he's basically talking about his, I guess, quote unquote thesis statement that The Wall is all style over substance, and it really has nothing to say. It's just mostly there as a spectacle, which is so untrue.
And so ironic.
Yes.
Because it's like, what do you think this video is?
Like, one of the lyrics is literally, it never aimed to tell a story, rather a sprawling canvas of emotion, visual splendor. No, there's a full-on story that happens. So there's a character arc, like, that's solved at the end. And then just the juxtaposition with, like, this review and, like, these characters, it's just like, how do you not, like, see the pot calling the kettle black? It's wild. From a musical standpoint, at least in the album, you can actually like hear the vocals, because in the video the mixing is horrible. You cannot hear anything like these creatures are saying.
Yeah, especially like too, because their accents are so particular and like the mixing is so bad.
Yeah,
all you hear is just like this fucking creature just speaking British.
Yeah,
but you don't actually know what the fuck they're talking about,
or like who it is or why they're here. Like on the trial, like there's a reason why all these characters appear. But in the review, they just show up out of nowhere, and you're just expected to know who they are, which is fucking wild. Like, why do I need to like learn lore for a Nostalgia Critic video?
I will say though, one thing with this album, I hate how like I could, when I was listening to this song, I could vividly like picture this scene in the video for Doug Walker. It sticks with you. You do not forget it,
because there's nothing like that on like the rest of his channel. Like the first time I saw this, I was bewildered because I saw like a lot of his content up to this video, and I was like, this is not Nostalgia Critic. What the fuck is this?
It's crazy, man. The song also has, if I'm being honest, even if the voices are better than Doug's, it has no business being 5 minutes long.
No.
Like absolutely no business.
Again, they're just mimicking the runtime of like the actual album. They're just like trying to be quote unquote faithful, and then they're just missing the point.
The instrumental is at least nice, but then again, it's just them replicating like what you hear on the actual album. So it's like,
why bother? Just listen to the album. There's a part on one of the characters is called Lucy. I did some research to learn who they were. They have trumpets in the background, and they just sound awful. Like the way that they're mixed sounds like they were recorded in a bathroom. The weird like vixen mommy creature that's in there is just so jarring to see in a Nostalgia Critic video.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's honestly kind of wild. Like there's a lot of them are a little bit too curvaceous for my liking.
Yeah.
Which, listen, I'm not here to shame anybody's lifestyle, but like for people who don't know anything about that community, this is not a good way to learn.
A good representation.
No. So I feel like this also almost like does injustice to that community too. So it's like, god damn, like he just really spiked out in different directions on all fronts, left no stones unturned.
He literally dragged everyone down with him, unfortunately.
It makes for a wild listening and watching experience.
Yeah, dude, this track is easily one of the worst on here. Like, I guess you could say it's the kindest to the movie, as it says like it has merit, but it completely just misses the point while also contradicting itself, making it just irrelevant.
Because, like, I mean, I've never seen the Wall movie, but the thing is, it's not like a typical animated movie where the animated characters are there like the whole time.
No, there's like animated scenes interspliced at like certain points.
And then doesn't it kind of all come to fruition like kind of at the end?
Yeah, the climax is animated.
Yeah. So the thing is about it's not like, I don't know, fucking like The Incredibles where like you're following the Parr family like from start to finish.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, there's no fucking nuance. It's like, no, there is. All these fucking characters, these animated characters matter. You're just choosing to only take them as animated characters and not a new representation of what the characters did to the main character.
Yes.
It's like, it's
so surface level. It's honestly a very childish criticism too. Like, it's just, you can't like peel back that layer and like really just understand what Pink Floyd's trying to do, which is baffling, honestly.
It's crazy. I really hope to God there was nobody who like watched this video and went, yeah, I'm with this. Like,
It's okay, Matt. We're at the very end.
I only have one note for this song.
Oh, for the SpongeBob theme featuring Corey Taylor?
We finally get to the end.
Mm-hmm.
We finally get to the fucking ending of this parody album.
Yes.
And what do they do but sing the SpongeBob SquarePants theme with an electric guitar and nothing else and just a group of unhappy adults?
Yep.
Like, oh my God. I mean, if we did not drive the point home nearly enough, the album's pacing as a whole is terrible.
Yes.
It's not good.
It's awful.
Between them trying to pay homage to the songs on the original album and then just these really unneeded skits, we go through all this shit just for you guys to sing SpongeBob SquarePants.
I know. Like what's the point here? And like, this is in the review, it's the only part Corey Taylor gets to like talk or sing. And it's where Doug gives his honest review of the movie where it's like, I liked it okay. And it's like, well, why did we have to watch all of this shit? If that's your point and you didn't convey that clearly whatsoever.
Why did we have to listen to this entire album all for you to just be like, hey,
it's pretty good.
Did they even include the fact that he liked the movie in the album?
I don't remember I don't think they did. I think it just ends with Doug breaking the wall. If not, I'll put that in the description. I'm pretty sure they leave Corey Taylor's vocal part out entirely besides this track.
SpongeBob SquarePants.
Yes.
God, and it's just, oh my, it's crazy. It's crazy that they ended all of that, especially going out of their way to like introduce all these different like characters and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, you know what? SpongeBob SquarePants.
Isn't that funny, guys? Isn't that epic?
It's so funny.
Isn't
At
that
the very
low
end of the
random?
day, it's the one thing we can all agree on. SpongeBob
SquarePants.
fucking SquarePants. Oh my God. Dude, this album changed my brain chemistry in like the worst way possible.
I can understand why, Matt.
Just Jesus fucking Christ,
Yeah.
man. But I have nothing. The only thing I wrote, and I can literally just say this from memory, is trash. Pure trash.
I understand.
That's what this track is. It's just 1 to 2 minutes of just them
Covering SpongeBob, these almost 40-year-olds hopping around singing the SpongeBob theme song. Yeah. But Matt, that'll bring us to the end of Nostalgia Critics The Wall. So what are your final thoughts?
Let me see what I wrote down here. I had like a visceral reaction to this album, if I'm being honest, and just everything on here. Unfortunately, none of it was positive. From the very first track, the vocals were just insanely grating and just felt deeply unsettling as he's trying to do an impression, and it's so like over the top that when he sings normally it's just bad. Like he can't be a normal person. It's insane. And this issue just like persists throughout the entire album, with his voice often sounding cartoonish and strained and just anger inducing. Like I can't describe it anything else as anger inducing. While the instrumentals are like somewhat showing a little promise in the beginning, you can just really see the dip in quality.
Oh my God, yeah.
And it's just wild, especially with some of the creative choices that they did to pad out the album and to pace it. Every attempt at satire that this album tried to do fell flat, which left me confused about what the actual message was and what message they were trying to parody. Like I watched this video and listened to the album. I listened to the album once, watched the video twice. Gonna find out who's naughty and nice. Sorry, I don't know why.
That was good.
Intrusive thoughts. It just left me so fucking confused. Like some of these tracks are just insanely pointless. Forgotten Song, The Deeper Meaning.
Yeah,
like
Corey.
Corey, just fucking bizarre interludes that they decide to keep in. And it's like, if you're going to keep those in, why don't you keep everything? Which I guess in retrospect, I'm
glad
kind of
they
happy they didn't.
Yeah.
But it's also like, they probably did this to try and like make it like, oh, well, if you want to know what happens, you got to watch the video. But it's like, Pink Floyd didn't do that with the fucking album and the movie.
No.
Like
it was a bonus on top of that. Yeah.
It's crazy. The length of some of the songs, especially Fennah's The Trial, felt excessive and just so self-indulgent. And oh my God, like the only humor that is on this record is the contrast between the artist's natural squealing voice and his labored attempt at singing normally. But even then, my amusement of those two factors, fleeting, absolutely fleeting. Overall, this album is just a misguided project. I don't know what creative muses poured out inspiration to make him do all of this with such low effort, and then have an entire furry section that
Comes out of nowhere.
that probably inspired way too much fan art. It's just so disrespectful to the original source material that it was riffing on, and ultimately such an unpleasant listen, which is why this is going below Playboy Cardi in F tier.
Let's go.
There is listen, Mr. Cardi Barty, don't get ahead of yourself. I still hate Die Lit. I still very much hate Die Lit as a whole. But holy fucking shit, this album is just abysmal. It's abysmal from start to finish, and I'm guaranteed to like never listen to this again.
Yeah, that's valid.
I'm really hoping I can just move on with my life. Genuinely. Okay.
Is it also a 0/1 out of 10?
Probably, yeah. I this might be in the negatives. Low-key,
That makes
this
sense.
might be in the negatives. Oh my god. Those are my thoughts. Those are my thoughts in the album. I'm going to let this die here in an unmarked grave
And begin anew.
But AJ, I would very much like to hear your final thoughts about this.
Oh man, well if you couldn't tell, this is an easy fucking F tier for me. Pink Floyd is my favorite band of all time, so hearing someone just so blatantly disrespect the source material without bothering to learn the context or even creatively like make good points is just like baffling and insulting.
Yeah.
Just like seeing this low effort video, but seeing him try so hard really just puts in perspective like the type of creator Nostalgia Critic is. Like he thinks he's doing the most while saying nothing at all. The instrumentation by Mr. Scallon is unfortunately very unremarkable. They're just almost bar for bar watered down recreations of the Pink Floyd instrumentals that are not worth listening and not worth including to that amount of runtime. Like, I don't need to hear your interpretation of a David Gilmour solo because it's not going to be as good as David Gilmour. And also, I don't know why, the inclusion of the bongos, they really drive me nuts. Like, why is there so much bongo on this album? I know that's just a weird critique, but it just rubs me the wrong way.
They're imperative.
Especially when they're not that much on the album. They're on Run Like Hell, from what I remember. That's a tangent for another time. But just like the blatant misunderstandings of like all of these tracks is so frustrating. Hearing Doug just say these like baseless, incorrect, just completely missing the point of what these tracks are about, equating them to just very surface level, immature, quote unquote criticisms, just saying like Roger Waters shouldn't be complaining. He's a millionaire artist who has everything he wants. Saying School Sucks shouldn't be paired with the horrors of World War II. It just shows that he didn't care about the movie. Like, he says he likes the band, he says he likes the movie, but you don't get a sense of that in either the album or the video.
That did not come across whatsoever.
No.
Much like any of his points.
Yes. Like, a lot of this stuff is very clear to see if you just like take the time to watch, just to like indulge, to learn. But he didn't. He just like took very basic surface level points, exaggerated them to the extreme, so they were basically like unapplicable to a lot of this album, and it's just so frustrating to watch and to listen to. Doug also sucks as a vocalist.
He's really bad.
Yeah.
I mean, like, there are many complaints about this album that I think anybody can have. That has to be like the number one thing for me.
I know. Like, having just Doug Walker like yell with these high-pitched vocals or just these flat monotone vocals, there's no good moments for him. No. They all just suck. And for an album that's supposed to be funny, that's supposed to be a parody, it's not. It's just mean throughout the whole thing. Like, he just calls it boring. He calls it pretentious while not backing those points up. Or when he does, just backing them up incorrectly. It's just inconceivable how this exists.
Yeah.
Like, it is one of the most fascinating like studies of how like a person can view like media and interpret that and then give their thoughts on it. Like, I commend him for taking the criticism well. I'm upset he doesn't want to take those criticisms to heart and kind of learn to adjust his craft in the future, especially with a project that's like very near and dear to my heart. So it's just insane that this exists in the first place. If you want a more in-depth kind of dissection about why Nostalgia Critic's The Wall, the video itself, fails on such a fundamental level, check out Folding Ideas video. That'll be in the description. But yeah, that's an easy F tier. I don't know if it's at the very bottom, because I really don't like Melanie Martinez.
That's very fair.
Yeah, so maybe I'll get back to that on my season 3 ranking, but this album, this Nostalgia Critic's The Wall project is just horrible. One of the worst things I've ever seen or listened to.
After listening to most of The Real Wall, holy shit, like I can very much see why this is so disgusting for people like who really enjoy Pink Floyd and just enjoy music, if I gotta be completely honest with you.
For real.
Before we end, I was gonna do more, but this is a comment that I felt like needed to be said.
Okay.
Someone commented, I was going to write down a comment per track, but to be honest, I didn't want to involve myself with this album like more than I needed to.
That makes sense.
But this comment made me laugh actually for like 10 minutes. And this person wrote, "This is as much of a love letter to Pink Floyd as a bullet was to John Lennon."
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up.
Because holy shit, like at the very end of the day, if he is supposed to be doing this as an homage to how Pink Floyd made good art, that did not come across.
No.
And it's just an unintelligible
ego trip
fucking mess.
It's just there for him to show off his skills in like the studio.
If you could even call it that.
Which
like,
are very impressive.
Like literally the mixing on this album and the video aren't even good.
Yeah, they're really bad.
So
with the shitty CG blue screen and all the fucking MS Paint graphics.
Yeah, no.
Oof.
Something tells me when we do the Bad Album Bowl again, this guy is not moving. I mean, we'll see.
Yeah.
There could be other ones out there that are genuinely as bad or maybe even worse, but this is definitely a good first contender for the winner of the Bad Album Bowl.
Yes.
Now, naturally, we were going to try to determine which one of the two was the worst album. Not the worst, but the worst
of
album.
the two, yeah.
And without a doubt, want to say it at the same time?
3, 2, 1. Nostalgia Critic's The Wall.
Doesn't fucking, in terms of how bad the albums are, freaking Songs of Innocence doesn't even hold a candle to just the frustration that the listener or viewer feels when listening to this project.
Like Songs of Innocence is actual music.
Yes.
This is like a torture. It's a torturous experience to sit through.
And while, sure, Songs of Innocence has some low points, the entirety of The Wall is just abysmal.
It's insufferable.
It's in a pit and it has no chance of climbing out. Like it's terrible.
Yeah.
It really marks the fall off of like this guy's career, I feel like.
Yeah, essentially.
And it's funny because like I feel like even with this album that U2 put out, like it didn't even mark the end of their career.
No.
Like, they literally did a concert in the fucking like Sphere in Las Vegas.
They dropped an album last year too. And I was looking at like some rankings because I was curious how like U2 fans actually thought about Songs of Innocence. A lot of them put it at the bottom, but like a bunch of people really like it, put it like towards the middle. So like it's got its fans.
I mean, Cedarwood Road, it's an okay track.
Yeah.
I could see that.
I don't hear people defending we need more victimization.
No. I very much don't hear that either. But
this has been a highly volatile episode of the family album.
Man, in this great season 3 of just terrible music that we've had in the last like few months.
It's been fun.
It has.
Yeah.
It has. Let us know with this Bad Album Bowl.
Yeah, more contenders.
I mean, if you want to see other people or other albums have like another shot at being the worst.
Let us know which ones.
Yeah.
Let us know if you have any ideas on how to improve in the future for that regard. This is our first time doing that.
Absolutely. And we'll put up some polls on Instagram too, you know. But thank you for enjoying our first bout of Instagram content. Hopefully that is the first of more things.
Thank you for voting, everyone. We really appreciate it.
And most of all, thank you for listening.
Yeah. For your constant love and support, as we always say.
But I guess that'll end this episode of The Family Album.
I'm your host, AJ Tenari.
I'm Matt Glass.
Thank you so much for your constant love and support, and we will see you next week with a guest.
Peace.